On this episode of the Star Wars Time Show, Matt may be flying solo like Han, but he's ready and willing to take a deep dive into the Andor finale and everything it had to offer. On his journey down Rick's Road, he'll talk about the finale's top 5 moments, as well as a few of its Star Wars references. Thanks to Lord Gilroy hitting the circuit, he'll also discuss Andor Season 2's time jump, plot points, and returning characters. Of course, the show will end with the Question of the Week responses and the latest round of Top 5 Star Wars Fan Artist Features. Punch it, Chewie!
And just like that, the mics are hot. Hey now, everybody, welcome back to the Star Wars Time Show. And as you can see, we kicked Nick's ass off the show and replaced him with Trevor Williams, a.k.a. @16shooter. Hey, Trevor, thanks for joining in. I mean, when Nick told me he was not going to be here to break down the last episode of Andor, I was like, well, I can't do this myself. Like, come on. I mean, that's a pretty epic thing to happen in Star Wars and any Star Wars property. The finale,
absolutely,
you got to tackle it. You got to take a deep dive, and it's usually better when you have another person to talk to, because in the end, I hear my arguments and my opinions on Star Wars nonstop in my head. So what's the fun in getting online, doing a live stream, doing a podcast, and essentially just talking to myself with the stuff that I already know and I already believe in and I already support. So I'm glad you can join in. We'll definitely go.
I'm glad I could be here.
We'll definitely go through the Andor finale, aka Rick's Road. We'll do our usual. We'll review it. We'll talk about top moments. We'll talk about Easter eggs if there were any references. All the fun stuff that Tony Gilroy, aka Lord Gilroy, presented in the final episode of Andor, and then we'll get into Andor Season 2. It's already filming. Tony's already talking about it, so there are some details already available about Season 2 in terms of timelines. Are there going to be time jumps? How much time will the 3-episode arcs actually take up? Will they take up a full year, or will it just be a few days in a year? We're learning this stuff, so we'll talk about that once we're done processing the Andor finale. So
when will Lutheran be revealed as a Jedi? That's
He's still sticking to it, and I will. I mean, if it happens, 16shooter, Trevor, he will get the credit. I remember it was back on episode 4. He was on this lowly little show in the chat, in the live stream here, and he made that call. I'm still not sold on it, mostly.
I'm less enthusiastic about the idea, but I think he is Jedi adjacent. There is something.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
I got some thoughts on that. We'll talk about later.
Okay, yeah, there's the Force was involved in his life somehow, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It's just either family members or the planet he came from, the culture, whatever. But yeah, I'm with you there. Right. Full Jedi, I don't really know. I don't think so, mostly because of Tony. But, just because of some of his actions and what he's up to. But yeah, like I said, if you got more on that, we'll definitely get there, because there's going to be some top moments that Lutheran was involved in particular, the end moment there and what all that means for Season 2 and moving on. So, yeah, but before we get into that, we typically like to take a tour around pop culturesville and discuss some new stuff that's out there that geeks and people that listen to the Star Wars Time Show may want to waste their time on. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a movie from Disney that apparently is not doing so hot at the box office, and that is Strange World, which, Trevor, yeah. I know when I mentioned it to you, you're like, well, what the hell's that? I wouldn't expect it to be on too many people's radar. It's I don't think.
Yeah, I know what it is, but they haven't done a great job of pushing this movie at all, man. It's just like they haven't. I don't feel like they're confident in it.
Yes,
so,
okay, and that's exactly.
Like, why should I go see it?
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's It did not feel like Disney promoted this movie well at all. I mean, Trevor he's dead on. The only reason I went to see it is because I got a little girl. She watches her iPad at night. I'm sure she was getting hit on the YouTube Kids with trailers, watching Disney Plus, this, that, and the other thing. So we went and checked it out. But Trevor is not wrong. Disney, there's something going on here. I don't know if they. I'm sure because of the queer relationships, it's not screening in foreign countries like Russia and China and all that. So I'm sure that had an effect. But also here, I mean, it's definitely getting review bombed for reasons it shouldn't be getting bombed. From all the weirdos out there that tend to worry about other people's choices in lives more than their own life and how they act and what they're doing. But I'll tell you what, I mean, after seeing it's okay. It's better than average. It's not like, oh shit, I'm going to go see it again type of Disney movie. I will say that it's got a nice little plot twist in it, that kind of ties into some, I guess you could talk climate change, stuff like that. So it had some good Disney messages, not just Disney messages, just good human messages. But it was lacking some of that Disney magic. So, I mean, it is more like a 7 out of 10 type of movie. I would probably say you're good waiting until it hits Disney Plus in 30 days, especially if you don't have kids or if you're not really into Disney animation anymore. It's nothing you need to run out and see. But it's definitely not the tire fire that it's being kind of described of on like a Rotten Tomatoes.
But that is the problem. Well, it's great, and it's great for me, and it's great for a lot of people. But it is the problem that that you can just wait 30 days, and you can watch this in the comfort of your own home,
100%,
without spending $50 for your entire family. Especially if you've got kids and they want popcorn and they want soda and everything else. It's it's kind of, I mean, kids are a little more plugged into media now, so they know what's going on. It's hard to suppress that it's out in the theaters right now, but it's just say, hey, wait till next month and we'll watch it on TV and for Christmas or whatever,
No, I think you're right.
Box office is suffering for a lot of movies.
You're not wrong. Even one of the stars, Gabrielle Union, she's like, listen, I mean, people are now conditioned to just wait. I mean, this started with the pandemic. I mean, we were getting movies that were meant for theaters delivered right to the streaming networks. Now, while that doesn't happen hand in hand now, it has kind of become a 30, 45, 50-day wait, and you're getting box office movies at home while they're still at the theaters. So I think that there's a few factors in there. Again, the people that don't like seeing things that aren't them, the lack of promotion, and just the ecosystem has changed for cinema, and hopefully not to the detriment of never getting theater movies, but it has definitely changed.
Yeah. No, I love the theater, but there is the other thing is, I mean, I don't know about you, but I have a list a mile long of things that I have to catch up and watch, and we're trying to rush through Netflix series one after the other because there's just so much good stuff on TV now on all these different platforms.
Too much.
And it's like, if something, hey,
she's here. That's my buddy. That's my buddy Trevor. Yeah, we're talking about Strange World. What did you think of Strange World since it was meant for you?
Good.
Thumbs up. You liked it?
Thumbs up.
Yeah,
all right,
I would love to live there if there was like a city, but not too much people.
Okay, you're like me then.
Because
me too.
Less people, the better. All right, good to see you, little kid.
Absolutely.
So there you go. There's
I mean, unless it's something that's off the charts, great, that's getting lots of buzz.
You're
what's
fine
your incentive,
waiting.
man? There's so much good stuff to watch in the meantime. I can wait till it comes out onto streaming.
Well, I mean, Nick and I were riffing on that last week. It's like, and I'm sure you're the same way at your house. I mean, do you feel like your My List just keeps growing and growing and growing? Be it Netflix list or Prime's list or Disney's list. It's just, I'll add that to my list. I'll never watch it, but I'll add it. So,
yeah. Have you watched this? And then we just watched like 1899, which was incredible. And then everybody's saying, if you
that's fully out, right? Because that's a Netflix show.
Fully
so that's fully dumped, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And I've heard that if you watch the wrong dub, it kind of fucks it up because there's so many different languages spoken that when they try to dub it, it kind of.
Oh, if there's a dub, that's going to be terrible. No, just do the subtitles.
Okay,
half the people speak English, another speaking Swedish or German, and just just watch
no,
the
that's what I mean. It's like somehow it was defaulting to one of the other.
Oh, that would be awful.
One of the other modes, and everyone was speaking English, but it wasn't the proper translations for the actual English being spoken. Yeah, I mean, I never watched Dark, and I that's from the same people that made Dark, so
that's excellent. So that's on my list.
Damn
you know
it!
What I mean, that's what
Damn
I mean.
it,
like,
dude, you're giving me
stuff.
all right.
Watch.
No more homework. But back to the movies, and the one reason I still try to go once a week is because at AMC, I don't know if you have AMC chain by you.
Yeah,
but they do the Stubbs Reward A-list program. So for $20 a month, I can watch 3 movies a week. And when you have an AMC a mile and a half away, when you can literally leave when the movie starts and get there before the trailers are over, it's a nice little setup. I mean, it was a lot better when I didn't have a kid and I had more freedom. But I do try to still get out into the theaters. Like this week, I mean, just comparing to streaming networks, there are a bunch of in-theater movies. I want to watch that Devotion. I want to watch The Fabelmans from Spielberg. I mean,
Fabelmans. Glass Onion. I want to see
that new shit. It's coming out this week with David Harbour, the John Wick Santa one, where he's like, he's Santa just fucks people up. I want to go check that out. So hopefully, the movies don't die completely, but I think Strange World and its fail this week. I think it only made 18 million, and the budget was like 130 or something crazy like that. So it's a failure. But hopefully that doesn't all go away. I do like I think it's WB that does. It's like a 50-day wait from theater, then it goes on HBO Max. That might be the right balance versus
That's the incentive. You got to wait almost 2 months for something. Unless it's something I'm just not interested in, I'm probably going to go and see it. You know what I mean? Like if Glass Onion was going to be 60 days out before, I probably wouldn't go to the theater. My problem is, like, the other thing is, my wife, she likes going to the theater, but like not when it's crowded with people. So forget about going to Marvel Day 1. She's like, go by yourself. We'll watch it again.
Oh, yeah, man, I'm mostly a solo theater guy myself now, but I try to, unless it's a big release like that, I also try to go on off times. I almost always sit in the handicap row now because I know that's my best chance that some dickhead, even in an open theater, isn't going to sit right next to me. Have you ever had that?
Dude, I just went to, it's assigned seats now for everything. So every place I go is assigned seats. They're comfortable seats and everything, the reclining things. But I just went to see, oh God, what was it? What was the last? I don't know. It was a Marvel movie. I think it might have been Spider-Man. I don't know. Anyway, oh no, you know what it was? It was the Dio documentary. So anyway, I sit next to this bunch of guys. It's packed. This big guy, kind of heavy set guy. And he just starts coughing like crazy. He is just hacking up a lung. And I'm like, oh, Christ. And I didn't bring my mask. So I ran down to my car before the movie started. Put my mask on. And he's just looking at me the whole time like I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. And then he leans over me. He's like, hey, I noticed you went and got your mask. I'm sorry about that. He's like, I don't have COVID. I just have, like, when I eat a lot. And he was like, road it just
Job of
I'm
the
like,
hut.
well, maybe you could do something about that, man.
Dude.
You're gonna die.
Yeah, stop eating so much.
I don't know, but he had to say, I don't have COVID. I've been tested. I'm like, okay.
You gotta love people, man. It's great sharing public spaces with people. It's like there's a con coming up in Columbus this weekend, and there's tickets, and I'm like, I just don't want to go because it's gonna be nothing.
It's a
but
COVID fest.
Herds of people,
Everyone
man.
is a COVID
Yeah,
and just people on their own sometimes.
Yeah, I mean
it depends on
that's
who you're going to see, but
that's more of it now. I mean, I got COVID. I'm pretty sure I suffer from long COVID, so I'm already fucked. I'm multi-boosted. Got the new one at this point. I just go out and roll the dice like all these other assholes. But no, the thing that drives me nuts in theaters, and it is with the assigned seats. But have you ever had to where the theater's fucking wide open when you're picking your seat? Yeah. And yet, when you get there, some nut job,
there's one guy,
is either right next to you or one seat separated from you. And there are times where I just want to look at them and be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Like, you saw that there was a person sitting there, and you saw that the rest of the theater is open. Like, why? Why? Oh well. Yep. All right. Yep. Well, I think the other pop culture thing you and I briefly discussed that we probably should talk about is the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, which You know, I saw it was like a week or two ago, just getting tons of positive buzz on socials. James Gunn was putting a lot of stuff out, and I'm a fan of Gunn, and I figured it was going to be pretty good. But I watched, I was like, yeah, it's pretty fucking good. I mean, it
was right.
Yeah, it's the Guardians of the Galaxy, man. I love the way he writes them. I like the humor there, which kind of approaches adult level humor versus you know, kind of being dumbed down so it goes over kids' head. It's almost like it's coming right to adults.
And this one was all humor. I mean, you know, the Guardians of the Galaxy sprinkles it in amongst some sort of crisis, you know what I mean? And, you know, even death and things like that, you know, but this was just all fun. But I think that was what they were trying to do. I think they were like poking fun at the Star Wars holiday special a little bit, you know what I mean? The goofiness of that and bringing celebrities into it and stuff like that. So I thought it was a lot of fun.
Just the fact that it's just random Kevin Bacon, because apparently Quill, that's what he used to talk about a lot, is all the Kevin Bacon movies, because 6 Degrees to Kevin. So, but no, it's fun. If you haven't checked it out yet, it's not a long slog. I think it's like 40 minutes, but it tells and
there's some stuff in there that is going to be relevant. Like, it wasn't all just fluff. So there's some stuff in there that's relevant.
Right, like I won't go into big spoilers.
Yeah,
but is the Mantis thing from the comics, Trevor? Or is that something they're doing for the MCU?
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. My Guardians were different Guardians back in the day, so I don't really know.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Like I said, we don't want to spoil anything. Yeah. But this apparently was the final Phase 4 entry.
Yeah. That's
so. There we go. Not that
I found this on the web.
Hey Siri, not that much happened in Phase 4.
I was gonna say it didn't drive Phase 4 any further than it had been.
Dude, Phase 4, it's almost like Feige was just dicking around. It's like taking a break phase, and he lightly set up some potential big bads coming with in Loki, and then obviously in the trailer for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, you finally get to see Kang, but they didn't really latch into any of that within the movies, at least. More so on the shows, but in Feige,
I know it's setting up the multiverse, but like. There's no thread for me. There wasn't enough of a thread that it was like, oh, I see where we're going. Yeah, I don't know.
Because even the stingers didn't really connect. Because, you know, in Phase 1, 2, and 3, they all, if you watch them, you can see it's like, all right, that stinger starts in Iron Man, and that lays the groundwork for Avengers, which then lays the groundwork for the battle versus Thanos, and so on and so forth.
I would have thought Kang, if he's going to be part of like the next part of this, would have been threaded in there here and there.
Like, how's he?
Maybe there's a reason.
How did he not do something in Doctor Strange 2? You know what I mean? Like that movie seemed like a perfect. That he was dealing with the multiverse. Yeah. So it's like, oh well.
Yeah. Weird. I don't know.
All right.
But yeah, in Foggy we trust for sure.
And then the last little thing, we won't spend any time on it because Trevor hasn't seen it. And I think Tones brought this up last week in the live stream chat. Which, by the way, if you want to join in, 2:30 East. Tuesdays, youtube.com/Star Wars Time Show. Maybe next week we'll have Nick back, or we'll just keep Trevor here. You never know. But Spirited, it's a new Christmas movie on Apple TV Plus, or whatever the hell that's called now, Apple Plus. And it's kind of a reimagining musical approach to A Christmas Carol, starring Will Ferrell, Ryan Reynolds, and a bunch of other famous people. And even if musicals aren't your thing, it's good. I mean, it's Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds. I like both the dudes. I like their brand of comedy. I like their movies, and they do mesh well together. Plus, in the end, it's got a nice little Christmas story behind it. So,
is it really tied into the elf world? Like, is it in that supposedly, like, it was supposed to tie into the elf world? It exists.
There's like a. I mean, there's an in-your-face Easter egg where someone's literally wearing his elf costume.
Oh, okay.
But it's more directly related to Ebenezer and all that shit, like Christmas past, present, and yet to come, all that. So, but it's good. I mean, it again has a good message that is relevant. I mean, it kind of deals with, you know, Scrooge. He was stingy. He was just a dickhead to people. But that was in like the 1800s. This one, it's kind of like, using social media and being dickhead to people and what that can cause and so on and so forth. So,
interesting.
Like I said, it's a fun little thing to throw on now that the holidays are fully kicked in. We're through Thanksgiving, so now we really can dig into Christmas. And according to my wife, you're not allowed to watch Christmas movies until after Thanksgiving anyways, so that's what we started with, and I recommend it to
I agree with that.
Who have been waiting. But now, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get all my Princess Switch 1, 2, and 3 going on Netflix, and was a Prince Christmas.
I heard.
I'll tell you right now.
Are you?
I'm being dead serious.
Are you on the Hallmark channel?
These are all Netflix Christmas movies starring Vanessa Hudgens, and they're great. I love her, and I love the crappy Christmas movies they make on Netflix. Check them out. Princess Switch Trilogy. It's a trilogy, for Christ's sake, Trevor. Come on.
That's a lot of a commitment.
There's like a hero's arc. There's journeys. There's everything. You love it. It's just like Star Wars. So
I am now looking forward to the Christmas stories.
I want to check that out too. I
heard it was good. I heard it was actually
now. Have you ever watched the direct sequel they replaced all the fucking cast?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah, I haven't even touched it because you look at the box art and you're like this. They're not even the same people. And
then they did a musical, and I think they did it live on like one of those NBC live musicals where they've done like the Sound of Music and stuff, and that was awful too, man. It was.
But yeah, I want to check out old Ralphie and see what's going on for sure. Yeah, that's a good, and that's HBO, I believe. So, and I think we're getting at least one more new Christmas movie, and I believe it stars The Rock and Ryan Reynolds, so that's gonna be that'll be something interesting. Perfect. I believe that's a Netflixer too.
Wow, that is just gonna make nothing says Christmas like
dude, and he's in like red leather, I believe, so perfect. All right, man.
Yeah,
this is a Star Wars time show. I did bring you on so we could talk some Star Wars, in particular Andor, episode 12, Rick's Road. And, I usually let Nick kind of do his brief review first. So we'll go ahead and keep that trend going. I mean, I kind of, my post title here, Sticking the Landing. I don't know. Could there be a question mark? What does Trevor say? Did the Andor finale stick its landing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. This has been, this is my favorite Star Wars television streaming show, and it's my favorite Star Wars thing since Rogue One. And Rogue One, I remember I was thinking about it, like watching Rogue One for the first time. I was like, okay, I got out of it, and I was like, wow, that was really good, but everybody died, and there's no spoiler alert, and there's no there's never going to continue. Like, there's no more stories for these people, right? Like, I can't think that this is as good as some of the OT, and I watched it again. I'm like, yeah, this is like probably number 4 for me at this point. You know what I mean? Maybe close to number 3 over Return of the Jedi. Maybe it's incredible. I love that.
Have you watched it since finishing season 1?
Oh yeah, not since, but I watched it prior to Andor coming on.
Because that was the whole time I'm watching Andor, I'm like, man, this is fucking great. I want to watch it. Rogue One. But I was like, I'm not doing it until I watch the whole season. So this weekend, I fired up Rogue One again, and I can tell you, I'm someone that has always appreciated the movie, but it never moved me. I was just like, all right, cool, that was neat, but it wasn't Star Wars. There's no Jedi and all that shit. One of those guys. I watched it now after watching Andor, and the movie is 100% different. It feels different. There's more gravity to it. Cassian feels more like a fleshed out character. You understand his motivations. Yes. Everything makes sense. Yes. And even that thing where, you look on his blue jacket and you see that book there. It's like, yeah, that's probably Nemec's manifesto. Why not? And so all that, just in one season of Andor, it made Rogue One even greater than it already was. To me, it now feels like a real Star Wars movie. It's got that through line, like you're saying. We now understand the characters in the universe a bit more, and parts of what it took to get that Rebel Alliance set up on Yavin. So it definitely resonates much differently for someone like me after watching Andor season 1.
For sure. And when they announced the Andor series, I was like, okay, this will be some fun adventures of him and K2SO or something like that. And I said, no, K2SO isn't in it right away. And I'm like, oh, what is this going to be?
Right.
Like, why does this need to be? And now having seen it and thought about it more, like, Rogue One was Jin's, for the most part, Jin's arc. You know what I mean? Her story. With some great characters, great surrounding characters, but nobody that was fleshed out. I mean, God knows, as I want to know a lot more about some of these characters. And this is given it to us, and it's doing a great job of supporting that. And like you said, after watching this and watching Rogue One, it's like, wow, the gravity of that last scene and the whole thing, really, just his attitude towards everything. You know what I mean? It's like, who he is.
Exactly.
Now. And we haven't even seen the whole thing. We've only seen it up to the point where he's like, okay, I'm down with this rebellion now.
It's only going to get better. Like season 2, and we're going to talk about season 2 and what some of the plots are going to touch on, because Tony Gilroy they started filming last week. Gilroy's out there talking about it. And we are going to see even more of the mustering of the rebel cells towards the Massassi Temple on Yavin, and how we get to that organized rebellion in Rogue One, which, you get pieces of it in Star Wars Rebels, but it's always nice to get it fleshed out in live action. So, all right, kind of a tangent there with Rogue One. So the finale, how did it hit for you? I mean, were you like, damn, best episode of the season, or were you like, there was no surprises, no twists, or what do you think?
It's hard to overcome the prison, episodes. Some of the, especially the escape. But this one was probably in my top 3, and the reason is more subtle. There was a lot of little things. Just seeing Luthen standing there watching Marva's speech, and you could see it. He's such a great actor, and that's the other thing about the show. There's so many, and there was moments in this one as well, like that, where you could just see on the people's faces, the actor, what he's getting out of these people. You don't have to say a word. Like, he's standing there watching it, going, "This is what it's
he's
about."
Like, this is exactly what I want to happen on every planet.
Forget about necessarily raising tons of money, and yes, we need that aspect of it, but this is the thing. Like, just getting people to realize that they can stand up.
He had a hard on watching that speech, just like the rest of us did. I mean,
it was incredible. Speech was incredible, very moving. Obviously, B2 Emo. I love B2 Emo, and it's like it's interesting that him just knocking over B2 Emo, just flipping him over, made everybody as it felt for me. Like, I felt the rage. You want to stand up, and as soon as you felt that way, everybody just started like, yeah, fuck these guys. You know what I mean? Like, started. It was great. So yeah, I mean, I loved every aspect of it, man. Just the subterfuge of them, disguising, what was his name? His friend there, Brasso. And not being Brasso, and the fact that they got it's such good writing, and it's just like, it's like I told my wife, like, when we watched the first couple episodes pretty late, and she fell asleep, and I'm like, then she kind of fell off because I just kept wanting to watch the episode after episode, and I said, you got to watch this, because she likes Star Wars. I'm like, this could be any movie. It's just a great prison escape arc. For it could have been any movie set in the Star Wars. It just happens to be set in the Star Wars universe, man. I mean, I don't miss lightsabers or Jedi or Sith or any of that stuff. I like to see Palpatine somewhere in there, just as a reminder of the bigness. But I tell you, somebody said, and I totally agree, that this made the Empire, since probably the first 2 movies, made the Empire scary.
Oh yeah,
again.
Dude. I mean, they don't, and I think it.
They have gravity.
Yes, I appreciate that none of the bigs made it. I like that they just name dropped Palpatine. That was enough, because you could see the ISB and their butts would get all clenched when they had to just mention his name. Like, I talked to Palpatine today.
Yeah. It's the monster you don't see.
And I think even in the finale, doesn't Padagaz kind of tell Dedra, like, yo, chill out. We got Palpatine a win with this Anto Krieger victory, so shut the fuck up. You focus on Axis. Right. Leave me alone. It's okay. Right. I dug that. I mean, so for me on the finale, I pretty much echo everything you said. I will be honest, when it ended, it's like, oh shit, it just ended. Like, there wasn't a season finale twist or turn. Not that you not that one is required, but we're kind of conditioned when you watch a series that the finale or the episode before is usually going to throw a little bit of a curveball at you that may lead into season 2, and you're like, oh shit, I can't wait for season 2. We didn't get,
such as Lutheran's Jedi.
Yeah. No, we didn't get that reveal yet. He didn't whip out his lightsaber when Cassian challenged him. But even without a twist or a turn, it ended, and I was like, fuck, is it 2024 yet? Because I want more. I would pick this thing up just like Ryan Johnson did on TFA. I would pick it up that moment in the ship in season 2. Now that's sadly not going to happen. But I was just like, fuck.
I think that scene said it all.
Oh yeah, you don't need to. You don't need to.
So well
you don't
done.
need to.
Again, Skarsgård's just a little smile. And that's all you need to know, that he was like,
I got my guy finally. He's like, fucking A. I got a dude. I got another dude. That's exactly what it was. Like, I mean, I've got my Vels, I've got my Mons, and now he's like, I got my Andor. It was great. Yep. So, I mean, at the end, I was left wanting more, and to me, that's a sign of greatness. And I selfishly, I wish that Tony and his team were sticking to the full 5-season run now. It's kind of a bummer that we only have 12 episodes left. That's it, 12 episodes. He says it's going to cover 4 years. I don't know how that works now that we're taking a year off in between season 1 and 2, but whatever. That's what Tony says, so we believe him.
Like a year every 3 episodes, which is, I mean, if anybody can do it, he can do it.
No, it's going to work.
He encapsulated stories in 3 episodes with this, arcs that felt great and felt like little mini movies and stuff. So he could do it. I love all the subtleties.
That's what I mean. Like
I would love to have seen 4 full seasons of 4 full years.
Exactly. That's what I want. I want 12 episodes to a year, not 3 episodes to a year. But hey, it is what it is. Budget cuts, Tony. I mean, you can kind of get that Tony just wants to try something different, because if you think about it, he will have been on Andor for probably 5 or 6 years by the time season 2 wraps and it airs in 2024.
If it means that it looks like this, and the budget that they had allocated for a show like this went into it, and they could only do 2 seasons, and they weren't using the volume, and they made sets that looked real, like what's their planet? Ferrix. It looked incredible, man. Everything about that thing from the first episode, it just felt like Star Wars, man. It was like, this is my 70s Star Wars. People with mutton chops.
You're not in the bricks and screws camp? I mean? Have you heard that meme about there's like a faction of fans that are mad that there are bricks and screws in Star Wars?
Yeah, I do not care for that particular channel. I don't know if you mind me.
That's theory, right?
That's theory. Yeah, I don't. I've never really liked.
He's gone off the rails. Like I know he got famous because he made a pretty darn good fan fiction Star Wars movie.
I disagree. See, here's the thing. Yes, that's why he got famous, and I'm not going to go off on a tangent.
No,
about
please
this,
do.
But his idea, the reason that he didn't like this, and there was another one, the nerd, the guy's in On the Morning, I can't remember his name. Anyway, they both in the first 3 or 4 episodes hated it. Where's my Jedi? Where's my lightsabers? This isn't Star Wars. Yada yada yada. And that's like the Vader thing looked great that he did. It looked beautiful, but there was no story. It was like I don't know if he wrote it, but they overwrote it. Too much dialogue, saying way too much. That's the difference between this, when you could say something without saying something. There's so much in this show that they said things without having to say it. It was incredible. And it's not just dialogue between Palpatine and Vader, and then Vader spinning his lightsaber around. It all looks cool. You know what I mean? From toy photography standpoint and everything else. Like, oh yeah, that'd be a great shot. But it wasn't a great story.
And
then he got all butthurt.
Like,
Lucasfilm was like, "Oh, you can't make money off of that." Well, duh, it's not your property. Anyway, I got a lot.
He's like the biggest fucking channel out there. It's crazy, but people like the hate, man. They love the hate. Yeah. And I think he's a product of the prequel generation, where everything's got to look like the prequels. It's got to be the prequels, and
maybe.
But fuck him. Who cares? We're the Star Wars Time show. We're a much more nichey, small audience type of show. So I'm sure someone will rat us out.
More intellectual. This is a more intellectual take.
Yeah, I believe at one time when we were on the interview kick, I had Spencer try to lock him up because I just want to talk to the guy. There's like a little hey, if he comes on and either has a good or bad time, maybe his legions of fans will at least hate our channel, and that will drive traffic. Who knows?
Beef brings
of course,
people in,
dude.
man.
I don't want to get down and play in the fucking mud. And as much as I would love to have a large audience, I'm not willing to do what the Star Wars channels do that do have a bigger audience, and that's clickbait and pull shit out of their ass and just kind of hate talk about every subject. And I get my fair share of screaming and yelling and swearing, but I don't. Our agenda. That's right. Our agenda isn't to rail on Star Wars and how the creators are stupid and we could do better. And that kind of feels like what most Star Wars fan podcasts and channels are. It's like, we're better, we know better, George is the only one that can touch this. It's like, chill the fuck out. Like, why do you even like Star Wars?
I have my problems. I have my problems with Star Wars. I mean, I have my problems with some of the sequel movies and some, certain little aspects of it. I don't sit there and say, like, I could do better. There's no way I could do better. I just think sometimes, like, especially with the sequels, somebody kind of just, like, they, like, played the phone game and, like, nobody was really like, hey, wait a minute, does this make coherent sense over the course of 3 movies?
You know what I mean?
So
that dead
that's
horse.
my main issue.
The sequels.
I know, but I'm saying, like, I love Star Wars, but I don't love everything about Star Wars.
I don't.
But Andor.
There's not a single thing I hate about. I've watched every Star Wars thing out there, and I would say I don't hate any of it. But hey, before we get back, you brought up something I had in my thoughts section, and you said it almost verbatim. And I want to talk about it a bit more because like you, I do appreciate what I called Tony's show but don't tell style of storytelling, and that's exactly what you just said. And I think you really got this in the finale in the Mon thread where she didn't have to explain that she was throwing her husband under the bus, but we saw it and it all made sense. And then you get the little banger at the end where she agrees to meet Davos's family and possibly arrange that marriage. And you didn't have to go into a long-winded exposition of why she was going to throw Perrin under the bus or explaining that she was. It just made sense because that's how Tony does it. He just has to show you through his cast and a little bit of dialogue, you can infer exactly what's happening. And a lot of,
and he doesn't treat you like an idiot. You know what I mean? He's like, if you've made it this far, you've been paying attention and you kind of understand what's going on. And just subtle looks on her face. She's amazing too. That you got. At first I was like, what is she doing? You know what I mean? Why is, and then like hearing the guy, the driver in the front turn on the speaker, I'm like, oh shit, this is, and then I'm like, she's setting it up. Knows he's going to put on the speaker. Excellent. So good. I mean, they nailed that. They let you off the hook if you didn't understand it when the guy went to the ISB or whatever. The driver.
I mean, the whole season was a lot of show don't tell. I mean, Lutheran in particular had a ton of show but don't tell moments where you could tell exactly what he wanted, but he never had to just come out and have another monologue like, "Hey, this is what I'm doing, you idiots. Do you understand now? Okay, now I'm going to do it."
Yeah, exactly. There was one where the guy who gave him up, who he owed money to, you know what I mean? Like he owed him money. The dude that was like kind of going back to the Imperials and telling them where he was going to be and where he was on Ferrix, his friend there. Well, his friend, he owed him money. And when he said, arrest me, and they took him in, and they said something about either killing him, Andor, or something, and he just let out a little wince. He put his head down and went, "Yep." No, maybe it wasn't. Yeah, it's worth it. I fucked maybe up. This wasn't.
Yeah, it's like good.
Maybe he would have paid me back. Yeah, he owed me money. I didn't really like him, but I didn't really want to see the guy killed. But they didn't have to say that.
Well, dude, the whole thread with that character, I think his name was like Nern or something like that. It was the black guy from episode 1 that was shaking Cassian down with the big tall alien. And you could tell, and this is again show and tell. You could tell as soon as that guy was in this episode, I was like, he's gonna fucking rat out Cassian somehow. He didn't have to say it to that other guy, like, "Hey, tell me about." I mean, it was perfect. Anyways, okay, so I think we both kind of agreed that we enjoyed the finale. It stuck its landing. So let's go ahead and dive through at least the 5 top moments that I came up with. If I didn't hit on one that you had, we'll go ahead and touch on that, but. I'm going to start right off with, and this was more of a series of moments, but I lumped them into one, Trevor. Hopefully that is okay. And it started with Cassian at Clem's stone, having the flashback about Clem, and just Cassian kind of. It was like remembering his family and why he's on Ferrix, and kind of why he's going to become and make the choices he eventually makes. But then that kind of bleeds into Nemec's speech that Andor's listening to in his crashed spaceship on Ferrix. And that was another banger speech. I mean, we've had at least 4 or 5 at this point in time throughout Andor. And this Nemec one was fantastic. I'm not going to read the whole thing like I did with Luthen's, but just, beautiful. Again, to reiterate how great the writing is here. Here's kind of the closing line. And I don't know about you, but when I was watching this scene play out and he ends with what I'm going to end with, I was like, let's fucking go. Like, I was like, Cassian standing in the doorway, nice frame shot. I'm like, let's fucking do this. All right, here's the line. All right, so he goes through this whole thing, and here's kind of the closer. And know this, the day will come when all these skirmishes and battles, these moments of defiance will have flooded the banks of the Empire's authority. And then there will be one too many. One single thing will break the siege. Remember this. Try. And I'm like, yeah, let's fucking go, Nemec. It's like, if I was in a war-torn area right now, I'd be running outside my fucking house with whatever weapons I could grab on the way out and start trying to fucking kill people on the bad guy's side. Like, exactly. Everything he said in this, and like I said, you need to read the whole thing if you've only listened to it. The people have posted it out there. It's great. But it was just so motivational. But like I said back in episode 6, when we saw Cassian get the manifesto, it directly influenced him or helped to push him closer to becoming Captain Andor in Rogue One. So a big moment for me. I liked how it was shot, the lighting, and just the focus on Nemec's speech and Cassian really processing it.
It was fantastic. I love that it was in his voice. But there's a lot of stuff between his flashback to his father that they have been playing up the entire time, which is that the Empire and it's even in the speech in a certain way. I don't remember exactly how he said it, but it's like, they get so big. It's what Cassian said to the beginning. Like, they're so big, they don't see. They don't even know they're bloated. And his father saying that people don't look down enough. They don't see gold at their feet in the dirt with a little bit of cleaning up. He's cleaning up that engine part or whatever. And it's like, people don't look down enough. You know what I mean? And that's the Empire. They're not looking down enough. You know what I mean? And even with Luthen looking at Andor and not seeing that gem that's in him, you know what I mean? And thinking, I got to kill this guy because it's going to be, it's going to ruin my cause if he says anything. It's like, well, maybe this guy isn't going to, maybe he's in, man. You know what I mean? Like, maybe he's a gem.
I understood why Luthen wanted to kill him. But I was always interested in how are they going to resolve that, and I think they resolved it perfectly. But you got to wonder. It's like Luthen specifically wanted this guy for a reason. I mean, he came to Ferrix for Cassian, and kind of broke his protocols for Cassian. That's why he felt like he had to kill him. But you would think if he had that much research on this guy and knew what he was capable of, why not give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt? But you got to understand, if he's been doing this for 15 years, I mean, he is a shadow master, so you can't fuck around. Just like he sacrificed Anton Krieger. I mean, Luthen is a guy that can make these ice cold decisions and then sleep for 15 hours straight. Like, that's just who he is. Yeah.
And Andor came through for him, which is like the other thing I was thinking. But I was trying to think back and think, like, what is? I mean, he did kill. I forget the guy's name who suggested they take the money and flee. Yeah, Skeen, and he did shoot him. And they only have his word to go by that he said he was going to try and steal the ship and wanted him to go with him. You know what I mean? And they may think, God, this guy, he's a little, he can't be trusted. You know what I mean? We're a team, and he just killed one of our team. You know what I mean? So. That might have been giving him a little pause as to maybe he's a little rogue.
Well, I really think he explains it in passing again. Show don't tell. So you weren't going to get a lot of exposition, but Luthen, when he was talking or Clea, more importantly, when she was talking to Luthen, she's like, "Bro, you're getting sloppy. You broke protocol," and I think that's why they had to go to the nuclear option of, We literally grabbed this guy, fleed with this guy off a planet. He already had heat on him. We didn't get to properly vet him and ingrain him in the Vel's group. You just dropped him off, and now he's off on his own again. That's a liability. In our game, we can't have loose ends. So,
well, that's Clea's influence. I really want to know more about her. I hope we get a lot more background on her.
Me too. And I just...
She feels like she's the Lady it's not the right analogy, but the Lady Macbeth behind Luthen's Macbeth.
Dude, I mean, to me,
he's in control, but she's really like, hey.
See, I almost feel like they're equals, or she's secretly in control, but he thinks he's in control. Like one of those deals.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you noticed this. Did you notice Dedra's cloak when she walked Ferrix was almost identical to the red scarlet cloak that Clea wore when she went to go meet Vel?
I was just remarking how much she looked like, like a Palpatine. It's like you look like an Imperial man. You're not
like I said, it could be nothing.
Yeah,
but
now that you say that,
it's almost like they both had the exact same red cloak. Like I'm not going to get into my Crimson Dawn stuff, but I don't know. I thought that was interesting, and the fact that another little thing I don't know if you picked up on, but when Luthen meets with Vel, and she's like, "Yo, this fucking ISB lady's here," and he's like, "Yeah, who cares?" He's like, good. This is what's supposed to be happening. So it's like, does he know a bit more about Dedra than we do at this point?
Luthen? Yeah. I mean, probably because of the interior
Jung,
contact that he had.
Good old Lonnie.
Jung. Right.
We saw
who again,
he held it down, right? He's still doing his job. He's in there like, yeah, fuck him, kill them all.
Yeah, but in that very scene where they said, survive or prisoners, he's like, not this time, and you could, if you go back and watch it, he winced just a little bit. He just kind of,
all right.
It's so good.
Yeah, Lonnie will be interesting to see. I have a feeling he'll probably bite it in season 2. He might get outed as things get ratcheted up, but I do like Lonnie. He's a nice little side character. All right, so the other top moment I had is when Brasso tells Cassian Marva's final words, and in particular, I think the closing sentence, essentially, she lays out like, "Listen, Cassian, you're already a good person at heart." You do kind of want to do the right thing, but once you figure out to do those things at the same time, you're going to become an unstoppable force for good. And I'm like, fuck you, writers. Why are you guys so good at this stuff? Because Diego, I really feel like this was Diego's episode. I mean, I don't want to say he's been outshined by his supporting cast, but he kind of has been because of what they've been given by the script. It's not his fault. They've been given all the lines and all the emotional moments.
But plus, there's been little micro arcs for people within those 3 episode things, like Kino. Like that was kind of his little micro arc. Yes, Cassian is the anchor throughout that whole thing and the fulcrum or whatever, but he is like the focus 100%. On his change.
But it was great. Another well acted scene. Like I said, I think Diego nailed it mostly through physical acting. He didn't speak much. You could just see. I at least to me, Trevor. Every line that Brasso gave him, it was like punching Cassian in the heart. It was like poof, 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 and then but you'll become an unstoppable force for good. So between the prison, Marva's final words delivered by Brasso, and then a top scene coming up, Marva's speech, those were the 3 nails in the coffin to fully push Cassian towards his destiny of rebel freedom fighter extraordinaire. It took those moments in his life, and this year's time we covered. It was the prison, coming back home, hearing Brasso, and then listening to Marva's call to arms. So I thought that scene was great. And Brasso's a fucking Mac Daddy. I'm glad I had him marked for death. I had him marked for death. I'm glad he made it out. All right. The next top scene, and apparently this pissed some people off, but dude, I fucking loved the marching band. I love the marching band. I thought it was great the way they kind of met. They started in separate alleys. They each kind of playing their own tune. They met together. Good. The whole town kind of coalesced together. And then you get in there and they're starting to get ready for the ceremony. You get into the stone in sky, stone in sky, stone in sky. The way that built the tension and just showed the organization of the citizens of Ferrix, just brilliant. I mean, hell, dude, it was so moving, it got Liquidated Brain Bix humming. Like, it almost was starting to bring her back to life. Yeah. So the
music in that was incredible, and that's what I remember early on, before it even came out. At one point, Diego Luna was saying that we were acting in the street, and there was like a live band playing the music that were acting, and that was it. And I don't know if the people who were actually, because those were modified, earthly
they just like tack shit onto them. What do you call them? The greeblings,
but that's or whatever? What they do with guns. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they did with guns in Star Wars. It's so Star Wars. You know what I mean? It's awesome. I mean, listen, like, the modal nodes is kind of the similar thing. It was like an oboe with something on, stuck on the end of it or whatever. So I love that, man. I love that they came out from two different directions to try and kind of hide the numbers, I guess, that were coming into the street, because they were going to
remember they're only allowed to have 40 people. I mean, I got a shot on screen now. There's a few more than 40 people there. Yep. So they were like, okay, yeah, whatever you want, Empire. Yeah, we'll abide by your permit. And then they just, they roll out the fucking band, and here we go. It's time to. And
the music was beautiful, man. And I realized that music at the beginning of the show was all that band, right? Like, just kind of warming up throughout each episode, where they changed the music, and it was that same music, but it was just like little pieces of it, right?
When the Andor splash came up, I mean, it definitely had elements of the Andor theme, and you are right. Every week,
and then it culminated.
Yeah, every week when the Andor logo would come up, it would be a slight variation on the theme. It wasn't like Obi-Wan Kenobi. It started every episode. You got the Kenobi theme. Like regular TV show, you get the regular theme. You are correct. Andor, every episode, it was a slightly different tweak to the music as Andor slowly faded into view. But yeah, I just love this shot where they're all marching down Rick's Road, being led by B2, Brasso with the fucking brick. I mean, just fantastic. And it really, I mean, I wonder, I doubt Ferrix needs to be a big location in season 2. It probably wouldn't make sense because they're so hot, and we kind of covered that. But that they built pretty much that whole fucking town. Like that was all practical.
I can see them doing like a flashback in maybe towards the end, when, like, if the rebellion starts to come together and it starts to, influence people throughout the galaxy, and that's like a flash of, some more unrest and upheaval or something like that. But yeah, I don't see them coming back to it too often. There's nobody really left there.
I guess I'm kind of at another thought I had written down here. So, fuck it. I'll wait to the end, because it's more after some stuff happens. So. Excuse me, I'm sucking in too much air today. I'm about to get hit with a fucking headache. I can feel it. Yay, long COVID. But anyways, next top moment, probably the toppest of tops in the episode, and that's the Marva speech. The whole thing was fucking fantastic, but clearly the end when Homeboy gets kicked over and she's saying, "Fight the Empire." I believe that was supposed to be "Fuck the Empire."
If you watch some close-ups of it in slow motion, there's a couple of videos out there, and she's clearly saying "fuck." And I am glad that whether it was the censors or the Disney higher-ups, I'm kind of happy. No, I'm very happy about that. Even the shit in like the second or third episode, whatever it was, kind of took me out of Star Wars. I'm not a prude, but I feel like, I don't know, man. There's certain elements that I don't want to see of, American earthly culture enter into that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to see Luke, kick the sand and go, "Fuck, I'm never getting out of here." You know what I mean? Like, it's just like,
I would like to see that.
You know what I mean? Never tell me the fucking odds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, see, I could see Han and Chewie. I could see them talking like sailors.
Han should swear like a sailor, but like, I don't need that.
Well, do you like the dank Ferrix and shit then? Do you like the in-universe slang?
Yeah, because for me, like with Battlestar Galactica, it was frack, and like after a while, I was like, I get what that means. I understand. It doesn't have the impact on me, but it's enough. You know what I mean? Like Dank Farrik is like maybe a little overused. I'd like to see some other.
Oh God, they
up,
beat that thing to death in The Mandalorian, dude.
I know, yeah, I know. And this was a place though that I think, whether it was for their original thought or whether the censors came in, Fight the Empire felt more powerful. Whereas Fuck the Empire felt kind of like, like fuck these guys. No, do something about it. Fight the Empire.
Yeah, I do believe Tony has talked about like Lucasfilm asked him to change one thing, and this probably was it. Yeah,
I heard that.
So I do think that is a true story and not just a rumor out there. But yeah, I mean, the whole speech was fantastic. The way it kind of kicked off. The way it led into the fight. I mean, obviously Brasso going WWE with a brick to the dude's face, literally killing someone with Marva's ashes. I mean, that's beautiful.
Right, exactly.
She's not a woman that would be like, don't fuck up my death brick. Use it to kill the Empire. Like
shatter it over somebody's head.
She was very proud of Brasso as she looked down upon that moment. But did you feel like I know the answer on the one, but just again visually, the way this scene was shot, the way the camera would pan to the various people listening to this speech, did you feel like it moved Luthen and Cyril? Because they made a point to like focus on Cyril, and I was almost like, this guy is almost, he's either buying into this shit or he's getting very worried about what's about to happen.
I think with him that he's not one-dimensional, but he's probably the most one-dimensional character on there, and it just is single-mindedly hates Andor and wants that order and just wants to be somebody in charge. He's single-minded. He's motivated by, as much as he hates his mother, he wants to impress his mother and please his mother. You know what I mean? Even if he doesn't want to admit it. And this is his way. He doesn't understand disorder and doesn't understand emotion like that. So I don't think that moved him in terms of like cracking the needle, you know what I mean, or moving the needle on him. I think it was just he was worried about something happening. But Luthen, oh my God, he was rapt, and it was like, oh wow,
he was happy, right? Like this is what he wants. This is what he wants to see. See, I didn't think it was. Yeah. Oh, this is the way. I think he was like, yes, it's finally happening. Like this is what I've been trying to.
Well, it's taking hold, and there's other ways to do this besides military movements and attacking. Yes, those things are important. Taking down the interior machine of the Empire is one thing, but like little bits and pieces can crack this big behemoth. Again, nobody looks down. They don't see the people in the dirt and the bricks and the stone and this is the kind of shit that needs to happen, because that's the kind of thing that can break a giant behemoth. Oh yeah,
I saw Luthen. I was like, this guy's gonna go wheel one out after watching this, because he's kind of seeing the fruits of his labor take root, and he didn't even have a hand on this Farrik's uprising. Like it.
The fruits of his labor, but I think he is seeing another route to this, to a smaller uprising.
This is also
and getting
Marva,
penetrating people from a lower.
Marva, I think she even explains, like, look, I was asleep too for a while, so I'm still going back to Luthen, and the announcement of Aldhani is what motivated Marva again to kind of cut this speech. And to so I do think the Farrik's uprising is a byproduct of Luthen's work over 15 years, with Aldhani being the, as Dedra correctly called it, an announcement.
True enough.
So
yes, yeah, she was very excited about that, and that did like you did see.
She was like, let's fuck it, let's go, and that's when Cassian still was.
Yeah, shit can happen, small things can happen, little people can take down the big thing. Yeah, that's true.
So we got Ellis in the chat here leaving some stuff. So. Apparently, and I think he's right, but you remember when Cassian came back in episode 7 and left money with Bix and said, pay off all my debts? Mm-hmm. You would think that some of that money...
But did she have a chance to?
I don't know. Yeah, that's another good point. You would think some of that money went to Nurchi. So if Nurchi still got paid and was still rolling on Cassian, yeah, he's a piece of shit. So I'm glad he got blown up in the end. I always like when people make shitty decisions and then get instant karma, kind of like Tim with 2 M's getting blasted in episode 3. I love that stuff.
Yep.
I mean, that is brilliant. It's very.
And they didn't have to show that, but they did. They showed him right by the window getting blasted. And yeah, there you go, bitch.
Yeah, so really, and the other thing, Marva's death and her wishes is really what made Cassian. Yeah, I mean that's what pushed him over the edge. But I think the prison is what started it all, because up until then, Cassian was still very. He was selfish, right? He only cared about himself and his mom, and let's run, we got our money. He didn't care about anyone else. He didn't care about a rebellion. He didn't care about standing up for people. But once he got in that prison and realized, like, oh shit, this is kind of what life is like even outside of a prison. It's just very clear to me now. The Empire's taking everything away from us. Look what they're doing with the PROD. And then, that motivated him. They rebelled there. They broke out. But yes, once he got back home and got the words from Brasso and then listened to the speech, I think that's what was like. He finally went, okay, I'm in. I'm going to go to Luthen's ship and essentially sacrifice myself either to his gun or to the cause. Right. Which leads me into my last top moment, the old now infamous line of "kill me or take me in." Some people didn't like that line. I thought it was over the top, but I kind of looked at it as like Cassian's. It was like a blood oath, essentially. Like, hey, it's not worth living in this world the way I was living. So either kill me or fucking get me involved so I can fight back and try to make a better world. That's how
He's seen so much stuff between. That prison was like the final. I think on the coffin, like you can't just sit back and live like this. And my mother taught me this, and she, gave her life for this. You know what I mean? So I have two choices. Like, this guy wants to kill me, and he is my ticket into this bigger cause, right? I mean, what's he going to do on his own? Like, it's finding cells and stuff like that. It's not an easy thing, obviously. You don't just go up and knock on doors and say, "Hey, are you a rebel? Can I join?"
Yeah, right.
So this is his thing. This is his only choice. Like, and if I'm going to go in there, and if he is determined to kill me, he's going to do it. Otherwise, I want to be on your side. This is my life now. There's nothing else for me. I
like Luthen's line. He's like, "Hey, so I hear you're trying to kill me, or you want to kill me." He's like, "Yeah, it's easier said than done," or something like that. So,
yeah.
But it's almost like Luthen was happy that he walked in, either that he could finally kill him and kind of take that off his chest, or he was getting a superb asset, and he got the latter, and we're going to see what happens with that moving into season 2, because season 2 is going to jump a year from this moment. So Cassian will be fairly ingrained into Luthen's shenanigans by the time we get back to this in 2024. All right, so those were my top moments. So some of the thoughts I want to go. We already talked about Mon using Perrin as cover with the gambling debts, and she essentially is burning her family for another day. I mean, that's what she did. But you know what, Trevor? It's like, I think some people are like, oh, that's cold. She's the mom. Moms don't. But look how her family treated her this whole season. I think that's why Tony had all those scenes, was to show, like, look, her home life is just as cold as being alone and trying to do the right thing as a senator. So
and it's
go ahead.
It's that Spock thing, man. It's the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. You know what I mean? So, like, she's looking at that. Like, I guess, yeah, maybe if she had a better relationship with her daughter and her husband, it might have been a tougher decision. But I kind of think that she would have come to the same conclusion. You know what I mean? If this is all that she could do to continue in this movement and helping this become a more organized rebellion, I think she would have done the same thing. You know what I mean? Choice. She's going to do it. And her lucky thing is that this kid is into it, man. You can see
that, dude, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, yeah, he's cute.
Yeah, I was trying to sell that to Nick last week, and he wasn't buying. I was like, dude, they showed Lita literally, like, doing Bible verses of the old ways of Chandrila. I was like, and I figured it would go the way it did. I mean, the door opened and she smiled. It wasn't like she was being dragged there and Mon's like, get your ass in there, you're marrying this motherfucker. No, she was like, sweet, I'm getting away from my bitchy mom.
And it rings so true with, like, rebellious teenagers. You know, it's like you could be like the cool hippie mom, and it's like no, I want to go to Christian school, like, just for example, you know what I mean? Or like, I want to be Amish, you know what I mean? It's like, why do you have what do you mean? That's not how I raised you. Well, exactly. That's I'm rebelling.
Yeah. So
that's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Mon getting a little dirty, but it was all justified in my mind. It's just like they kind of built that up. That whole thread was being built up all season where, she had to go on her own because Lutheran wasn't going to try and help her. And she did. That got her in trouble. But in the end, she figured it out and had to get a little ruthless to do it. Not that I think she cared that she threw Perrin under the bus, because
no,
they don't like each other. She definitely doesn't like him, and I don't think he cares too much to be around her and what she's into.
Cares about him in the
a little
sense
bit.
They've been married for a long time,
like a little
but
bit.
Like that's about it.
It doesn't. I'd say she probably likes him because he contributes rent to their embassy suite there.
Does he? Does he? It sounds like Yelly doesn't spend money.
Yeah, probably not. He's out drinking and gambling. So, all right.
This little thing that I noticed here, and this, I don't know what this means, and maybe it means nothing, and maybe I'm on the wrong track. It's not central to everything, but like the antique store. Okay. Maybe this goes more towards my Lutheran is attached to the Jedi somehow, but she was doing something with that coin, right?
Clea. Yeah, dude. I was like, what is this?
And I'm wondering,
what is this?
Like, I thought she was cleaning it, but you know what? I'm wondering if she's aging and antiquing, and everything in that place is fake.
It's bullshit.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's an interesting take.
But they're selling them like they're real, and you'd think that might be my only thing is that might be a dangerous game around the Empire. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if somebody gets hold of that, a big wave
because it's not like he's trying to make money. You know what I mean? It's typically you would fake antiquities to make
nobody
cash.
else has been in the store, you know
right?
I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's not very busy.
Too high. I don't know.
So you're saying the whole storefront is literally a front just for him and Mon to.
Like, how do you get those stones from the doorway that in Rebels, and how do you get the crown that Amidala wore,
Bro,
and all this?
Like you said, he's a fucking Jedi. That's how he did.
Well, he may have picked things up like that. That's true. But he's got holocrons and
hanging out.
Those aren't just laying around.
He's Lutheran, man. He's actually Sidious's cousin. That's why he can do what he does right there in Coruscant, and Sidious doesn't care.
Right. Like I said, I don't know if that means anything at all. Probably nothing. It's just a little undertone or whatever or something.
Dude, hey man, Lutheran to me is the breakout Star Wars character of the year. Like I am consumed with this guy, and 90% of it is because the way he was written, the way Stellan brought him to life. I mean, I
need my hot toy.
Yes, there you go. One of the best fleshed out, tangible Star Wars characters that doesn't have magic yet that we've ever seen. I mean, just a brilliant character, and I cannot wait to see his fate. I mean, Tony has said as much. Like, once after Aldhani, the clock is essentially ticking on someone like Lutheran. Like, once you do something like that, you can no longer hide under your shells. It's only a matter of time before your fate catches up to you, and you know what's going to happen because he has to be gone by the start of Rogue One. You can't have the Godfather of the Rebellion not at the Massassi Temple. It would not make any sense. He wasn't as crazy as Saul, but I mean, he kind of was, but he didn't do the actions where Saul would actually go out and do the terrorist stuff. As you can see in Rogue One again, I mean, I forgot that scene. He literally just attacks in the middle of the town. I mean, it'd be like ISIS throwing a dirty bomb, and if regular people were there, tough shit, as long as we took out some bad guys, I mean, who gives a shit? So, all right. Dedra and Cyril, are they a thing now, or is she still grossed out by them?
Well, I was going to say, there's a comment in here from, I think, Toy Visuals. His mom was dogging and disrespecting, talking about Cyril, his whole series. That was a good way for them to show the impact of family dynamics on one's confidence. That dude was on a mission to prove his mom wrong. I think he was on a mission to prove his mom wrong, and I think because of his mom, he's got a thing for authoritarian women who will kind of put him in his place, which is Dedra.
Yeah.
He loved her after she berated him. He's an interesting psychological.
Yeah, and Tony is sticking with Cyril is unformed, is what he said. He's not a full fascist like Dedra, and he's not a rebel like Lutheran. He still kind of has a pliable mind, I guess. It's just I do. He clearly has something for Dedra. I mean, he went out of his way to save her. He left his boy. That was the best shot. How about that? They went back to show Sergeant sitting there drinking on the steps all by himself after being left.
Where'd my buddy go?
There are no
I gave
bros
him my
before
hat.
hoes when it comes to Cyril Karn. So do you think they're a thing moving into season 2? Does he get to become like her subservient or her lieutenant in the ISB because of this?
She's going to employ him because of his tenacity and his.
So here's my other thing. Do you not feel like?
I think she'll keep him at arm's length, though.
Well, here's my theory on where things could go with her based on what happened in the finale. Do you not feel like Dedra essentially pulled a Cyril on Ferrix and is going to pay for it career-wise? Because look what happened. She set up the operation to capture Cassian. It failed miserably. The Empire looks stupid. Yet another slight rebel uprising on a planet that's going to get communicated across the galaxy.
Lost a prisoner.
It parallels what Cyril did in episodes 1, 2, and 3 almost spot on. It was looking for Cassian. They had everything going for him. They had him trapped, and then it all blows up in their face, and the good guys win again. So, I mean, do you think she gets knocked off her pedestal or potentially kicked out of the ISB? I
think after the big rally, such as it was in the ISB room when they were looking at the, the aftermath of the massacre there, and how happy everybody was, and it's just like, again, this is a big behemoth, and the thing is making Palpatine happy.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like Palpatine's happy because we just, we took out these guys who were.
Did you notice at the end though, Patagaz goes, "Hey, don't worry about us here. We got Palpatine a victory. You worry about Axis," and she failed. And now that the Empire's lost their best chance to capture Luthen because of her mission. That's what I'm putting out there.
And they're not like a subtle machine, you know what I mean? So I don't think the little subtleties, even though the ISB kind of is about that, but like I think even on that is more of a macro than a micro level, whereas she's very micro and looking at all the details and knew that they were doing things wrong and inviting them in, and it was an invitation to the rebels to attack over here, whatever. But yeah, I think this might have been the thing. Like, okay, we listened to you for a while. You had some things going on.
All right.
But you totally fucked this up.
I just,
you know what I mean? You totally fucked this up.
I don't.
So sit down and shut up. You don't have your sort of way with the board anymore, where she suddenly became like a voice within.
So you're thinking the ISB keeps her. She just goes back to no one listens to her anymore. Blevin gets his territory back and all that shit. All right.
Exactly.
Because I was almost like, man, what if they do to her what they did to Cyril and just fucking discharge her, and now it's her and Cyril on their own, like. Because now that they have a shared interest, a shared hate, because now Cassian has ruined both of their lives, and now they can do it together and focus on him as a non-binding entity, meaning that they're not tied to the Empire and they're not tied to the rebellion.
Mm-hmm. What I thought was interesting, and I thought was going to happen. This is one of those things that I thought that it should, because it didn't. They've got this figured out. I totally trust this team and everything that they're doing, but. I would have thought, since they were so close to each other, that Cyril, like Luthen, would have said anything to anyone, and Cyril would have heard the voice and turned around and maybe not known who it was. You know what I mean? But he knew he was there, and maybe told her that he was, there on the planet, and then, they'd have some lead. Because right now, what's Cyril's, he knew who Andor was. He doesn't know where he is now.
Right.
What good is he? It's no,
Well, that's what I mean. Even the Empire has lost that lead, because they knew at least, hey, we've got this opportunity with this dead lady. We want to talk to her son to get to Luthen. That's all gone now. I mean, Cassian at this point, he's been a shadow to the Empire, even though they had him locked up. They didn't know they had him locked up, so he was a shadow. But at this point, he is a true shadow now. They're never going to find him again now that he is in Luthen's nest. So. I think she's going to pay for it, and I could definitely buy into she just gets a reduced role, and the ISB is going to lose out on her important voice because she's the only one that really cracked this nut. I mean, she figured all this shit out. She, as the audience, we knew she knew the right things. She was doing the right things, but like the Empire usually does, she fucked up. They got a little big. They got a little antsy.
So she's like, why didn't we why didn't we capture someone and get some information? And they're like, no, we just wiped them all out.
Right.
The Emperor's happy. They were all killed. It's like, no, she's like, no, we really need to keep some of these people alive.
So we'll see. We'll see if she gets the ultimate punishment or if she's just back to let's not listen to her. So let's go to the chat. We got a few questions for us here, Trevor. Ellis, and I do think you brought Ellis and toy visuals with your posts. So they seem to be new people. So do you think Luthen is a Jedi in hiding? We went over this in-depthly last week. Trevor is one of the first people I know to kind of put that theory out there. I'm sticking with, I don't think he's a full-on Jedi. I think he is somehow, as Trevor's calling it, tangentially attached to the Force, either through family members were the Force, his culture was Force-centric, his planet, whatever you want to call it.
He said something about, was it 15 or 17 years in that
15,
speech?
He said, I've been doing this for essentially 15 years.
And that would have put him right about the time.
Right at Order 66, for sure.
Order 66,
oh, yeah.
Exactly. So something happened there that directly affected him, not across the galaxy that, oh, what happened to the Jedi? No, he knew a Jedi, was a Jedi, was, I would say married to, if they could marry, but like something there along the line that he knew a Jedi.
And that's why I'm
because that's who that affected, and that's not, he's not doing anything like just randomly. Oh, let's say 15 years. No, that's the timeline, man. That's right when it happened. So
you could argue Saul started fighting 15. Well, even before Saul started fighting in the Clone Wars, but they showed in Bad Batch he was one of the first groups of people that the Empire wanted to kill already because they weren't down with the idea of the Empire and clones occupying their planet. Right. I mean, I'm just providing a counterpoint here. I mean, Luthen didn't have to know or be a Jedi to understand that bad shit just went down with Order 66 and the fall of the Republic. But yeah, it's like Ellis is saying. I mean, there are a lot of clues. His walking stick is could definitely pass as a lightsaber. The fact that he had a blue kyber crystal, right? Of course. Yeah. The blue kyber crystal and the importance to him, and the fact that he's like, listen, I want this back. This means a lot to me. So, but a Jedi wouldn't care about possession. So that's why I'm leaning more towards.
Maybe it was fake. Maybe it was just fake.
Right. It's one of those things you can get at like a rock shop at the beach.
That's right. Exactly.
The seashell shop.
Now that meant something to him. And when the guy took the walking stick and he said, give it back, or if you're not gonna whatever, and they just lingered on that for way too long, man. That was another
right. I mean, you can understand why you're patting a guy down to go meet Saw Gerrera, but the fact they're like, pat him down, take it out, the camera's like, look at this, people, look at this, people, focus on it. It looks like a salt and pepper shaker. Right. But it could be it is his walking stick. But we've known other Jedi.
On one side.
Other Jedi have had their blades hidden in canes or walking sticks, so it's not a far reach.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm leaving, at least me, where I'm willing to go as far as that he has maybe not a personal connection, his own connection to the Force, but he's down with it, either through family, culture, something like that. I like this one from Connor Tierney, a.k.a. Press Pause.
Yeah.
My wild theory is that Cyril is the one to bring down Luthen. He gets faced with a choice, Andor or Luthen, and does it either for her or to spite her. I like that. I dig that. Mm-hmm. I still, I fucked up. I said Cyril was going to be the one that kind of caused the calamity of Ferrix. He didn't need that. They had Marva and B2 getting kicked over. That's all they needed. And then obviously Homeboy's son kicking things off with the pipe bomb. But yeah, I do feel like Cyril is going to play a major role in this series, or why do we keep following him? Because so far, he makes Nick nauseous almost. Like Nick wants to. I don't even know if Nick likes Star Wars anymore, but he hates.
I think he
hates Cyril Karn.
The anti. Yeah, I think he is the anti Andor. You know what I mean? I really think he is the other end of this story.
Okay.
As much as they're focusing on what's her name?
Dedra.
I think he is really the crux of it.
So Cyril is the true foil, is what you're saying. Like from a literary standpoint, like he is the foil to Cassian.
Yeah, it's his relationship with his mother, Andor's relationship with his mother, right. How that drives them. You know what I mean? Like he is the anti-Andor. So,
well, yeah,
even
you
though
can see, you're right, because you can see why Cyril wanted to be in law enforcement, would love to be in the ISB, because, I mean, he grew up in that sterile Coruscant setting where we saw Cassian's upbringing. It was through
crushing.
Yeah, freedom fighters. I mean, who the fuck knows what happened on Kenari, or we'll ever figure that out. Either way,
survival.
He was hanging out with kids, Lord of the Flies. He gets picked up by some random freedom fighters, goes to a planet full of freedom fighters, and he kind of learns the hard way of what it's like to live in the galaxy under the Empire. So that's a very, very astute observation. We might have to send Trevor a check for that one. I like that. Dude, you have to be spot on, because why else are we dedicating so much time to this character who honestly hasn't done dick shit since episode 3? I mean, he hasn't really done shit.
And his mother. I'm so much emphasis on his mother and her control over him, and just how he's influenced her life. And it's going to come, something will probably happen to his mother along the line somewhere. I mean, she's older. So, they're both going to be set out and doing things for different reasons based on that family, upbringing.
I wonder if
what they were taught,
because he robbed
and
from
they'll probably
her.
come head to head at some point. You know what I mean?
He jacked her cash to get the Ferrix. Do you think she gets what's his name, Uncle Harlow involved, and we figured out who he is, and he is like some gangster?
Oh, Uncle Harlow coming after him would be pretty cool. Yeah. Interesting. I wonder if our Uncle Harlow has any connection to the what's his name, the money lender there,
Davos Skaldoon,
marrying into yeah.
I mean, I have a penchant for being able to remember space names
that
make
do.
no sense, and there's no reason I need to memorize them. What's Alice saying here? Alice, I need a little more clarity. If you get a chance, look at episode 3 when they were in the warehouse and the metal parts was falling. There is a moment when Luthen looks up and they stop midair for a moment before they escape.
I do remember that. Yeah, that was another thing.
Okay, all right, okay. Alice dropping some more Jedi hints for Luthen. I'll definitely have to check that out, Alice. Thank you for that tip.
I'm going to go back and watch this again, because I think there's got to be a few more things in there. And again, he's not going to, like, people are saying, well, why wouldn't he just use the Force? And that is a dangerous thing, man. You do not. I mean, he doesn't want to call attention to himself.
I get all that.
Let alone being a guy who's out there like moving shit around.
To me, it's all the other stuff. Like, how do you get all the possessions? How do you literally set up shop on upper level Coruscant and no one figures out you're there? I mean, they were able to hunt Jedi down all over the galaxy. That stuff, and why would a Jedi want revenge so bad? The Jedi don't seek revenge. They don't seek that type of stuff.
Well, that goes back to that Rael Averross connection. Who was a very good Jedi and didn't play by the Jedi rules. I'm just saying that, and the being on Coruscant is like, it's like the Punisher adage, like hide in plain sight. You know what I mean? It works. It's like you're right there, and they just don't notice you. Again, they're a big behemoth, and it's like, you're not doing anything wrong right now. You're paying your taxes or whatever.
They get themselves in trouble, because I'm going through the comics now, and in Hidden Empire #1, like no joke, and we've seen Vader do it in the movies where he chokes people across ships. But Palpatine reached out into a random part of the galaxy and was able to sense and force choke Kira, because they were talking on holograms. Like, well, if he can do that, he can't tell that he's got this, the Godfather of the Rebel Alliance in his backyard. I don't know. It's like, well,
I guess if you can see them on a hologram, I suppose somebody needs to put down some rules for the Force, man, because it's getting a little too, godlike. You know what I mean? Especially in Kenobi with him, yanking down ships. I know he's done more than that, but I don't know. It's just like, I want to see it be powerful, but I don't want to see it like you can literally pull a moon down or something like that. You know what I mean? It's too much.
That's George's fault with midichlorians, dude. The more you got, the bigger planets you can pull down.
I guess, but with all the why would they generating midichlorians instead of clones over there?
I know.
And
dude, it's all,
injecting everybody with midichlorians.
We gotta deal with what was put out in the prequels, man. We just you just gotta follow the rules.
I gotta be honest. it may be why I like this more, because there isn't all that stuff that gets in the way of a good story. You know what I mean? Where you're looking at it. Whereas with Obi-Wan, I was just like, wait a minute. He could close that. There's a ton of water coming down on him. He can just close that door and there's not a drop of water on the floor.
Well, I think that's
like all very like, I'm just like picking it apart, you know what I'm like, and this is like,
that's my other argument against Lutheran being Jedi, because why we don't need that in Andor. They've already established we don't need the magic shit. So just leave them as it. You got to give them some sort of backstory. I believe
he's going to use it.
Okay.
I don't think he's going to use it. I don't think they'll ever have a point where he, puts his blade on or anything like that. But I think it'll be there. I'm still
with Tony. Wanted this to be the perspective of the common man, not what we've been given before.
Oh, I think it will be. I mean, you also said. I mean, you guys keep saying that like, oh, Tony didn't want any kind of like Easter eggs and stuff like that. But and it was the art department. He's right behind the camera. He knows all that shit was in there. He knows what's going on. So I don't think he's above putting some.
Tony truly is. Tony, like I don't know.
Like, the ghost was in there. Well, it's not the ghost. It was a ghost.
Tony, it was truly showrunner. He didn't direct a single episode. He just show ran. He did. I think he wrote the finale and maybe episode 1. But he wouldn't have been on set every day. So I do think the art department just snuck that shit in, because in interviews he's like, I think it's great. Like, he's not angry. He gets
the dailies.
Yeah, he's not going to do it himself. Well, even the dailies. He's like, oh, look at that shit in there. He's like, yeah, it looks good enough. Who cares? He doesn't understand the history that us nerds are going to pick up on. Man, Connor's on a roll here, but we may move on. But you can't find Luthen. He doesn't know he exists. Not Axis, but Luthen himself. All right. I'm still whatever. I'm staying with Luthen, Force adjacent. That's what I like. I think it will fit the mantra of the series, and it kind of fits what we know about the Force and Jedi and all that fun stuff that's been established. Yes, Jedi can fall and become bad, but they become bad, right? And they become Darth Vaders, or they become Count Dooku's, Kylo Ren's, that type of shit. So it would be new. I'm not saying it can't happen.
Jedi theory.
It would be new. It would be very unique for what has been established with the Force, the Jedi, and the dark side, and all that fun stuff. Okay, all right. Let's move into some of the Easter eggs and references. Not that there was a ton. I told you the post-credit stinger would confirm a prediction I had.
You called that.
So I know. Trevor, you were thinking they were probe droid chassis and.
At one point, but then after a while, I was like, "This has got to be part of the Death Star."
It made too much sense.
It's poetic,
of course,
of
course. I mean, in my thoughts section, and just wait till you get a load of this. But here's what I wrote down: Dude will die by a weapon he helped to create as a slave laborer. Yeah, the Empire's pretty fucking evil. So that is perfect, and it made sense, and I'm glad they gave us that stinger. But that's not the only egg we had. We had some cheap ones, because that's what I had to revert to for Andor. Not that I'm complaining, it shaved some time off my duties, but in the opening there, if you notice, Trevor, we had both a Lambda class and a Zeta class shuttle. The Zeta class shuttles first appeared in Rogue One. That's literally is Rogue One. Remember, Bodhi gives it the call sign. And then we all know and love the Lambda class shuttles from the original trilogy. So we got those there.
I just love people walking out of that, and her with 2 Death Troopers was just awesome.
Well, you led awesome. Me right into our next reference, and that's because we got Death Troopers coming out of that Lambda class shuttle. It's the first time we saw them in this series. And again, they were first introduced in Rogue One. And after watching Rogue One, I forgot how much they're used in Rogue One. They're like a featured unit in Rogue One, even though they still don't seem that capable. They do kind of get fucked up by like 10 rebels and a blind guy. But they are rad. I mean, are they one of your favorite trooper variants? Or are you a classic guy?
I got to be honest, I love the classics, but like when they first announced them, and like that was one of the things about Rogue One. I was like, Death? Really? Like, we're calling them Death Troopers? Like, come on, man. Like, isn't that a little bit on the nose? Like, oh, these are the guys that can actually shoot. You know what I mean? The other guys are just like, but these guys will kill you. Like, oh, okay. But then they really couldn't. I did at first I didn't understand the whole voice change thing, and then I'm like, why don't all the stormtroopers use this? Like, nobody would know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah, this is brilliant. These are the idiots. Like the flunkies get the white armor. They're just cannon fodder. They don't get a cool secret language.
are they elite like guards? Like because Krennic brought them, and
that's kind of how they feel. Now that you bring it up, because that's how it was in Rogue One. They're always flanking Krennic.
Yeah, and I mean he sends them out to the
field.
So I guess they got to do what he wants. Not stand around him and just like be kind of honor guards or whatever. But yeah, I think they're cool looking. I mean visually, I think they're one of my favorites.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I mean the white's always a classic. Shore Trooper, it's another very interesting one. Death stands out. Scout is a great helmet. I mean, you really can't go wrong with the Empire. If the Empire did one thing right, it's their gear. Yeah, their kits and their vehicles kick ass. Like they just look great. Well,
you know what's interesting about that? And I mean, Lucas always said that this is an allegory for fascism and Nazism. The Empire and the Nazis and Hitler was an artist. He was all about
designs. They're all decked out,
looking good and beautiful. Like we need to get flags made and the uniforms and everything. He was all about visuals, man, and that's the way the Empire is too. Everything looks beautiful. They're just a fucking mess.
Yeah, I do dig the look of those stormtroopers. All right, next one. We get a Canto Bight mention. Everyone's favorite casino planet. Mon brings that up as she's weaving her story to spin to her driver, Cloris, as Perrin comes in, probably a little buzzed up from another social event that they were at. And you're right. Like, you're sitting there, and she's in there almost hyperventilating. You're like, oh, shit. Like, is she about to... Does she have to go meet Davos again, or has she been called into Masamita's office, something like that? But no, she was working herself up to deliver this performance in front of Cloris, the driver, and her husband.
Like a 20-second thing where she's unbuckling
beautiful
things and then opens it up. Nothing else is happening.
Right.
She's just, you could tell that she's like about ready to, something's going down.
She's very flustered, trying to do, get her breathing at a regular interval. It was great, but the reason we're talking about, you get a Canto Bight mention, so there you go. Yep. And then last but not least, we did get the payoff on the prison build. They were making like these connector joints for the actual array dish array, whatever you want to call it, for the Death Star. So like I said, Cassian literally had a hand in building the weapon that melts him at the end of Rogue One. So how's that for irony?
I didn't understand the time. Like some people, I didn't watch the videos, but I saw some videos of like, does this mess up the timeline of this? Like, because they're constructing the laser at that point, was there something else that wasn't supposed to be constructed? I don't know what it was. Visually, it was a beautiful shot of the whole thing.
Oh, it was great. I loved how they did. I loved like that the whole thing, how they started real close, panned in on those spider droids, and then you go out, and then they hit the big deal, and you're like, fucking A, that's great.
So cool.
Do you think that's Scarif they're above right now, the planet?
Oh,
I mean,
I didn't even
it's
think
nice
about
and
what
blue. I don't
above.
see like the shield wall or anything, so who knows? But you remember earlier in the season, they're like, hey, we need a lot of construction materials sent to Scarif and blah blah blah. You were getting that stuff in the ISB briefings. So.
Oh, I didn't even pick that up.
I believe I believe it was Lonnie
sent to Scarif.
Yes.
So they were bringing it to Scarif to be loaded up to the.
Well, this was
Death
even
Star.
before the prison arc. They're just kind of going through their sector reports, and Lonnie's like, "Oh yeah, there's increased traffic to Scarif for construction parts and stuff like that."
Oh yeah, well obviously, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, sure, that makes sense.
But I think what you're talking about is if you go back in time, if you look at the Death Star at the end of
even Rogue One,
at the end of Revenge of the Sith,
okay,
it already has the dish in place. And I think that's what people are getting bent over. But listen, like I just watched Rogue One, and the whole reason Krennic has to go and kidnap Galen Erso again, because they fucking hit a wall. They were hitting roadblocks, and they could not complete the goddamn Death Star. So I think it all still lines up quite fine.
And the hardest thing was getting the kyber crystals and all that.
Like you can definitely retcon the Revenge of the Sith Death Star and be like, well, it wasn't a final build. They realized that
special edition.
Yeah, they realized that wasn't the right setup, the configuration that wasn't going to give you.
It was a test fitting. It was just a test fitting. They would just put the dish on there, and it was
there. You go. They're eyeing it up. That's what Palpatine and Vader are doing at the end. They're holding up their fingers, like they're trying to line up a painting on the wall. They're like, looks good.
that was all made of cardboard. It was just to show it, like, like somebody was just trying to impress them.
But I think we're all about it can be explained the way. I mean, this thing's been being built at this point for 15 years when we see it at the end of Andor. And they ran into problems. I mean, they're building a space station the size of a celestial body. Think about the resources, not only like slave labor, everything that went into building that. Sure, it's going to take forever. And then, figuring out the science of the laser, what they needed Galen for, and that delayed because he escaped and started a farm and all that shit. So it makes sense. I'm not gonna worry about this.
Do you think we will see? I mean, I know what he said about this, but do you think there will be? Well, this is season 2, and I know you want to go into this, so I don't want to jump the gun.
No, go ahead. It might be a natural segue. So,
do you think we will see some maybe a Galen Erso, maybe a Palpatine, maybe even just some rebel characters like Hera Syndulla in the background when Mon Mothma? Will she do that speech like she did in Rebels, or will they just take that as
been there, done that?
Happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But
I still think
the audience hasn't seen that. A lot of people haven't watched Rebels. You know what I mean? So it's like maybe he'll hear that, and I think that's what they did in Rebels. He went from planet to planet.
Oh yeah, it was a galaxy-wide broadcast. I mean, she essentially was her coming out like, look, I've had to leave the Senate, and this is why we have a rebel.
You're gonna have to do that.
And of course, because I mean let's just go into it. So we're going to move into our discussion on Andor season 2. So I think Nick and I will probably do like a top 10 Andor moments next week. We'll have we'll put it to bed. So we're not fully done with Andor season 1, but we already have a lot of tangible information on season 2 coming out from Tony himself. Like I said earlier, they started filming last week, and I already know the first character that got shot. So, and none of this is spoiler territory. This is from Tony himself, so we're not blowing anything out here. But really,
all new to
me, Trevor, the first interesting reveal about season 2 is that there is going to be a time jump. Now, I say interesting because Tony, before we saw season 1, laid out how he was doing this show. Season 1 was going to cover a year, which meant he had 4 more years to go. He was then going to use season 2, 3-episode blocks to cover a year's time. 12 episodes, 3-episode blocks, that gives you 4 years. So my question to you is, how do we jump a year and then still cover 4 years in season 2? Does that make sense?
Wait a minute, we're going to jump a year and then cover, because it's a whole total of 5 years, right? It has to be 5 years.
Right. So we covered year 1 in season 1, and unless he's now saying that was only like a half a year, but I think it was a year. So year in season 1, that's what he said it was.
That seems a little shorter than a year, but yeah, okay.
And then season 2, based on his plan that we talked about months ago, and I've got it linked here. I'm not just making shit up. I'm just trying to figure out how he's going to work this out. So, but he does say it'll be a year later after what you just saw. A great deal has happened in the interim. And then we got...
Okay, well, it could be a year, and then that's within that first year. Like it's towards the end of that first year. You know what I mean? Maybe it's a general
That's kind of where I was going. Like, that's the only way you can do it, is if literally episodes 1, 2, and 3 are at the tail end of this year jump, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a year might be general. You know what I mean? Maybe not, this has to happen in...
And then the other thing, I think we got some more insights into what actually are we going to see in these 3-episode arcs. They're going to cover a year's time, but are you really going to see a whole year pass? And we now have the answer. So here's what Tony said.
Oh.
They're actually super condensed. They're like 3 days, 4 days, 2 weeks, 4 days. So there you go. So you're going to get 3 days of a year, 4 days of a year, 2 weeks of a year, 4 days of a year.
Wow.
All right, so they're really tight. It's cool that way. That's what's exciting about it. You can go away for a year, come back for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then jump a year. So they won't be spread out. It won't be like Block 2 takes place over another year. So they're very concentrated, which is fun. And then you have to account for all the negative space and what happened in the interim. So for those that are...
That's his quote,
Yeah,
right?
that's right from Tony. So for those that are slow like me, what he's saying is... Episodes 1, 2, or 3 will cover a year's time, but you're only going to see maybe 3 days of that year. All the rest is going to be filled in by the time you move into the next 3 episodes, which are going to be set during another year, but you're not going to get a full year's time. You might get 4 days that time. So I can see the faces on that Trevor's making, and this is what happened and why. I mean, he's doing it because they're no longer doing 5 full seasons. But this is what we get now. We're going to get a very condensed telling of season 2.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, and I'm sure this is what your question is, but like, what can you cover? Like, literally, if some of these are going to be 3-day periods, this is going to have to be some major events.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's going to have to be laser focused missions, essentially. And one of them clearly is going to be K2SO. Like that I think.
And it may not even be
that's probably going to be an arc.
Mission oriented. You know what I mean? It could be a personal. I mean, because think about it, like, you've got more than Andor to deal with in terms of storylines here. So are you going to cover like him and Cyril and
Luth and Mon? They're all still on the table.
Dedra and everybody he's sending to that moon.
The Brasso crew, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, are you and Saw?
You got Saw. He's also Tony. Apparently, I don't have the exact quote, but when he's talking about who's coming back, he keeps mentioning Tivik. Tivik is the guy that Cassian meets at the beginning of Rogue One of Saul's agents. So Tony's talking about Tivik is going to be a character we'll see in season 2. So it's these 3 episode arcs are going to be, as Trevor said, very laser focused on one particular thing. It's not going to be Cassian is in prison for 2 months over 3 episodes. It's going to be Cassian is doing XYZ over 3 days, and then we move to the next year of his life.
I mean, again, like, he's saying 3 days, but it doesn't have to be 3 consecutive days. You know what I mean? It could be a day, and then you move a few months, ahead, and there's another day that something related happens. I don't know. I mean, I trust him because they've done so much, again, without saying things, and they're trusting the audience to pay attention, and so that you don't have to hit everybody across the head, over 3 days. Yeah. Could pack a lot into 3 episodes in a year, I suppose. But I think we're going to sacrifice, we kind of did that here, but I think we went back to Cyril just about at least every other episode, if not.
I think there's only one episode he was missing from.
They didn't go back. Yeah, one of the prison ones. Yeah.
But I don't think you're wrong with that.
You're going to flip back and forth between them, so there's going to have to be some condensed.
Yeah, it's you might not, the 3 episode arcs might not feel like they're covering as much time, and that's what Tony's telling us.
I really wish there was more episodes.
I told you, man. I told you we were all going to be wanting those 5 full seasons now, because
3 or 4 years of this.
Well, I guess the slow burn crowd, they might appreciate season 2 because it should be more bing bang boom. But to them, they didn't even like waiting week to week just to see what happened in the next episode. So I'm sure.
Fuck those people.
I'm sure they'll still be upset. So he's got even more for you, Trevor, on how he's doing season 2. So here he goes. We're going to cover in the next 12 episodes, we're going to cover the next 4 years. So I think you're right. 1, 2, and 3 has to be the tail end of the year jump we're going to get from season 1 to season 2. I think you're spot on. Mm-hmm. So each block of 3 episodes that we shoot, and that happens to be our organizing principle for production. So when we come back for our second half, it'll be a year later. An entire year will have gone on. All kinds of things will have happened, and we'll pick up the show. Sometimes we'll do a week, we'll do 3 days, we'll do 4 days, whatever, and then we'll drop a year in between. So these are from different outlets. I just organize them all because who likes writing multiple posts about the same shit? And then finally, here's a good one. The last one will be the last. I don't know what it is, 3-4 days before the beginning of Rogue One. And then our final scene has always been known, which will be walking him into the first scene of Rogue One. So we will be dealing with time in a different way, but it'll be blocks of 3. That'll be our principle. So what he's saying is episode 12 is going to close with Cassian probably getting on his U-Wing to head to the Rings of Kafrene. They're not going to actually show him on the rings because that's where Rogue One picks up, but they will have had enough things talked about, enough innuendos about the Empire's mega weapon that Cassian is going to be going to meet Tivik on the Rings of Kafrene to get that intel, which is they've got a planet killer. He's not going to learn they have a planet killer during season 2, but the Rebel Alliance and Cassian, they're going to be learning, like, the Empire's got something up their sleeves that we need to figure out fast, or this whole thing is going to be for naught.
What is going to be the climax of that final scene?
I honestly think it's going to be kind of chill, like season one, where it's going to be him and K2, or maybe him and whatever walking. This is me. I'm not quoting anything.
Yeah, no, I know.
They're going to be on Yavin. There'll be like a powwow about like, hey, we've got this information. Go meet with Saul's guy Tivik. Right. And we're going to be learning throughout season 2 that as the Rebel Alliance does, we're going to be learning that they're starting to figure out, okay, the Empire's been working on something that could make our movement a moot point. Like, it's that powerful. And then the whole season's going to be leading up to that, and then sending him to get that last piece of intel, which was, it's a planet killer, yada, yada, yada. We got an Imperial defector. And that's how Cassian knows to go back, and then they go and grab Jin, because you got the whole Urso thing from Bodhi when he talks to Two Tubes and all that fun stuff.
There's going to have to be some character growth or turn or something before that scene, because I as much as I love the idea of it, because, obviously I'm going to go and watch Rogue One again, for the 7th or 8th time after that last episode. But not everybody who's watching it. Now, again, this is not a show for your average, hey, I kind of like Star Wars person. But to have it so lackluster that it's just like he's going to walk into that first scene in Rogue One is like, how you can't end the series like that and then just go watch Rogue One for the rest. You know what I mean? There's got to be something that happens that's a little more impactful.
I'm telling you what the dude's
I know. He said that from the beginning. It's going to happen.
Because it sounds like Tony and his team, they've had the final scene planned from day one. Like that's kind of been their operating principle. Like,
that's a good thing.
We need to do all this to get him right here, and that's where we want to leave it, and then go watch Rogue One. And I was reading an interview where even Diego's like, yeah, you don't really fully realize the story of Andor until you get through Rogue One. So it is going to become kind of this trilogy in and of itself. Andor S1, Andor S2, Rogue One, which is cool. So here's some plot points for you, Trevor.
I love this. Yeah, I'm reading this. I love this.
We will be dealing with, by the time you get to Rogue One, you have the Rebel Alliance, which is a whole bunch of different disparate factions and people that have arrived on Yavin and have coalesced into what will become an organized rebellion. Well, we have 4 years to examine how difficult it is to put a revolution together, how difficult it is to become a leader, how difficult it is to be a victim. But what happens to the original gangsters? What happens to the outliers? What happens to the people who were, every revolution consumes people and glorifies people? Lutheran is who he's talking about. And not always the people that did the thing that mattered. How do you scale up something that essentially does not thrive in sunshine? How do you do that? And those issues and all the chaos of that is going to be of great interest to us going forward.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Don't you feel like he's almost directly talking about Lutheran in part? Because, Lutheran, he's the behind the scenes guy. He's the one that has sacrificed the most.
No
and he's
glory. Nobody's going to remember his name. Yeah. He's not Mon Mothma. He's not Luke Skywalker. Nobody's going to know who he was, but he was responsible for, a lot of this and maybe even helping to bring it together, because he has been trying to
this is every revolution consumes people. We know that's going to become true for sure with Saul. Like, Saul literally goes nuts because of this. Do you think that also could be referencing Luthen? Like, does Luthen get a little, does he get too loosey-goosey in season 2 and that's what costs him?
I think they're going to make him out to be a flawed hero, but not too flawed. I mean, he's going to be one of those people that the people who are around him will remember him for as long as they're alive, which for a lot of them,
it's not going to be too long. Yeah, like a couple weeks.
Except for Mon, as far as we know. So no, I don't think they're gonna really make him like a Saw type of thing, or like really going over the top. I mean, I don't know. I think Andor is going to be able, with that manifesto, to sort of pull him in a little bit, to rein him in a little bit, and with Clay trying to keep things low and everything. I think one of the people that will consume, though, and how difficult it is to be a victim is talking about Cyril, and
Dedra, probably,
for that part, Dedra. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, he doesn't tell you much, but he kind of lays down these broad strokes, and you can start to infer kind of what you're going to see. I mean, it's not going to be fucking around with Cassian's mental state anymore. It's full on. By the time we pick up season 2, Cassian's the dude. Like, he's in it. I don't know if he's obviously not going to be a captain or anything because it's not the Alliance yet. It isn't fully organized, but he's going to be the guy and probably being charged with bringing the cells together, or knowing what his role ultimately becomes with the Alliance. He'll probably be getting sent out on more of these spy level, hairy type of missions, intel gathering, meeting assets, being a handler of assets, so on and so forth. All right.
So you might know this. Was the decision to take this from 5 seasons to 2 seasons his, or did it come from
you can't really tell. I mean, he makes it sound like it was his. Where
because I was going to say I believe that, because he's a guy, I think this may be, we may end up looking at this when it's over, and we're all going to want more, which is a good thing. Like you said, you end up the season you can't wait till the next episode. I mean, having watched Clone Wars, which I enjoyed, that thing went on too long. It just went on way too long. There was too many filler episodes that strung a story along for way too long. And I think maybe they're avoiding that. Maybe it's we could do this for 5 seasons and really fluff it up. But
dude, I mean,
let's just get it out there. Let's just tell the essential story and make it, boom, 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 hits.
I think I do think a lot of it was Tony, because if you listen to what he was saying before this even aired, Jesus, he was like, I can't stick with a singular property for so long at once. He's like we said. I mean, he'll probably be with this Andor series for almost 5 to 6 years of his life. And any of these creatives that make it to that level, they typically like to play in other sandboxes after they've been stuck in one for a while. So I think it probably was a decision that he initiated ultimately. Now, once Andor debuted and no one was watching it, maybe Lucasfilm was like, "Oh, phew! I'm glad we decided to scale it back." I was hoping
that wasn't the reason.
But no, this was made before. This decision to only do 2 seasons was made before episode 1, 2, and 3 even aired. So I don't think it didn't have anything to do with no one watching it. I did read, though, apparently the finale was the first week where Andor finally started charting high and having more accumulated stream minutes than Dragons and Rings and all that stuff. So
I think there's a couple of factors here. I think I think that's, from what I've heard, it's being blown out of proportion as to how not well it's doing, in comparison to other things. And the other thing is, you're dealing with a character that people don't know. He's not a Mandalorian. He doesn't have a little cute green guy. And I think that, the first 2 episodes, well, I loved them. It's a slow burn. It's a slow build.
That's why I'm surprised they didn't offer all 3 to people last week on ABC. Because you're right, the first 2, especially when the second one ends with that just out of nowhere, I'm Cassian, just goes into a fucking rock ballad as he's walking through the scrapyard.
Yeah, it was a little. Yeah, they needed that third one. And listen, we're in a world I think Netflix does it wrong. I think this is why they're having problems. In that they just here's the whole
You're
thing.
Right. Yeah, watch, they fuck themselves with that.
Just watch the whole damn thing. They do, and I think Disney Plus and the other channels that are doing it episodically do it right. However, people are creatures of habit and have gotten used to binging. And I think the people just I missed the first 2 episodes, or maybe they just kind of bored me, but now I'm hearing great things. They're going to go back and watch it.
Yeah, I think it'll have a second life for sure.
Yeah.
All right. K2SO in season 2, that's a no-brainer. I mean, here's what Tony says. Well, I think that's one of the responsibilities of part 2. Obviously, if we're going to walk in the rogue, we have to deal with that. So yeah, no shit.
He sounds like he doesn't want to.
Well, I mean, he's the one. If you read the story of Andor, he wasn't initially tapped to do it. There was a treatment for it, and the treatment was kind of like what you were thinking it was going to be, the Cassian and K2 show, where you just go around and there's hijinks and they do shit. And Tony
sure
basically, whipped this thing out. He's like, "You guys are dumb. You're doing the dumb shit you did in Rogue One, and why I had to come in and fix
That's
that for
Han
you?"
Solo and Chewbacca. We had that already.
So I mean, K2 is going to be in season 2, and there's a part of me, I know Trevor isn't on this bandwagon. I still think a bit of B2 makes it into K2. Well,
more people say that, the more I believe that has to be something. I hope they do it well, because their attitudes are completely opposed.
And I see that more. I see that more clear now after rewatching it. K2 is a full on smart ass for sure. But like we said, maybe when he gets that new shell, B2 grows a bit, and he can shine and let that personality out that he couldn't ever kind of let people see, because he never had enough charge. You know what I mean?
Growth in B2 as well. Everybody's growing in this show.
Yeah. Yeah, B2 goes from being this loving, caring little brother to a smart ass that will smack you if you get out of line here or there. All right.
Why can't I have a gun?
I think I watched Rogue One twice this weekend, because I started it, didn't finish it, and I was like, I'm just gonna redo the whole thing. So I'm getting there. I might do it one more time. It for me, it got that much better. Like it hits so much differently. All right, first character film for season 2. If you're not looking on the screen, anyone want to guess in the live stream chat? I know we're on a little bit of a delay, so we can't let the dead air go for that wrong, but it's probably not who you're thinking. So the first character film for season 2 is Cyril Karn. He got the first shot of season 2. So Tony said, I'll just say we're shooting Cyril first. Kyle is working first. So there you go. Everyone's favorite Dedra Stan. He's back, and he is kicking things off for season 2.
Doesn't mean he's going to be the first thing in the show.
Correct. No, not at all. Yeah, because, I mean, other things that came out this week, they shot all the Ferric stuff first. So they essentially shot Marva's speech like month 1.
Right.
Which is always funny. But yeah, it doesn't mean they're shooting in chronological order. All right, so here's a few comments from our Lord Gilroy on the Andor finale. In particular, the moment between Luthen and Cassian. And here's kind of what Tony had to talk about. Kind of like what Tony thought Luthen was thinking at that moment. Yeah, it's a big day for Luthen. When he's listening to Marva's speech, it's not pride of ownership on his part. It is and it isn't, but it's another corner of the farm he's trying to grow. So he's very proud when he hears that. And my God, to finish up the day and have this new asset walk in, who's been through all this stuff and is still standing, and you manage not to kill. And he is now basically saying, all right, I'm in, blood oath. That's a pretty good day, I think, for Luthen. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I felt. Like Luthen was there, and even though some heinous shit was going down, I think he was taking pride in that. Like, yeah, look, this is what I envisioned.
It's the whole corner of the farm thing is an interesting, it's like I'm really concentrating over here on the tomatoes, and I've been watering these, but I've given everything some food, but holy shit, look at that corn.
Right, exactly. No, that very
really coming up. Look at that.
Very good there from Tony. I mean, Tony, he knows how to speak. He knows how to talk, and he knows how to write.
He talks good.
He does. He talks much better than me. Right now I'm struggling because I'm getting hit with this headache that's just really sucking some of the fun out of Star Wars Time Show Day.
Oh.
But I'll get through it. Fuck it. All right. So Tony, the next quote here is Tony talks about kind of why Mon went through with the Davos deal, even though she created the gambling story to cover her missing credits. Like some of you may have wondered, like, why do you keep going? Well, here's what Tony says. She's just trying to cover all the tracks. Skaldoon originally came in and said, oh, I know your husband. So in the end, Skaldoon probably thinks that this is really about her husband's gambling debts. He doesn't know what the real purposes are. But what I'm saying there is that she's just covering all the bases. If anybody comes looking, if anybody's wondering why she might be borrowing money, or if Skaldoon is wondering why she might be borrowing money, she can lay it off on poor Perrin.
Yeah, she's even covering herself with him.
Oh yeah.
Like, this is going to take care of it, but now she doesn't want him getting wind of something. Like,
it's
low life, man. Like, all he's got to do is like, oh, I know what you're doing.
Well,
I mean, so if you don't want anybody to tell anything about this,
But I think
The Empire
Tony's
knows,
also saying like now Mon will have freedom to kind of spend her money a bit more because they can just always blame it on Perrin's fucking gambling. So,
right.
You got to check in with the Gilroy if you need clarification.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here he is on the post-credit scene, and if the Death Star would play a bigger role in season 2. It'll still be the looming threat. Rogue One is all about discovering what it is. Season 2 is about who picks up the final breadcrumbs that lead to the beginning of Rogue One. In Rogue One, Cassian goes to the Ring of Kafrene to meet Tivik, who is from Saul's group, and he says, "Oh my God, it's a planet killer." Cassian knows some shit, but he's looking for answers, so we'll cover the breadcrumbs that I lead up to that, sure. But we have a situation where Cassian will never know that what he was building is actually the machine that's going to kill him.
Yeah, I love that.
So that's pretty cool. Essentially, like I said, we're going to get little things that are going to lead Cassian and the rebels to the revelation that he gets on Kafrene. So exciting.
And this is the kind of thing that's like, it's a big ass galaxy, man. Like you could be building this thing, over some planet somewhere, and it's not like people are driving by going, "Oh,
right, exactly."
You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, even the ISB hardly knows it's happening. They're just like,
right,
"Oh yeah, construction parts
internal
of Scare.
people,
Fuck it, who cares?" So here is Tony talking about the final shot of season 2, which Trevor, I thought I had a better quote for you, so here we go. And how close it will be to the beginning of Rogue One. So here's what Tony says. "No, we're going to go linearly into it. It'll be him walking out to get on the ship and go there. So we're not going to go in the Rogue One." So yeah, like I said, the final shot at least is going to be Cassian probably walking out of the temple to get on the ship. Now, I know what you're saying, that there's probably going to be a moment before that's like the true resolution to the season. Yeah, I hope so, because that would be like, "Oh, hey, see you later. All right, now let's put on Rogue One." And
I mean, his resolve to go there and find out what this is going to have to be pretty monumental, or something.
Right.
It's got to be. We got to leave us with like in tears. You know what I mean? At that point, or chills, or something. You know what I mean?
And then last thing from Tony, they asked him about Andor's sister, which at this point we could potentially say may just be a plot hole or truly was just a MacGuffin. So they asked him about it, and he's like, "That's TBD. I don't want to get out in front of that question." So either they do have plans or they don't have plans, and he doesn't feel like talking about it at this point in time. But do you need to touch on the sister thing, or is it kind of a moot point at this time in Andor's timeline?
Well, again, that's a Chekhov's gun too. Like they just put that there in the front, and it's like, "Hey, sister," like, oh, and it doesn't disappear. It's going to come back. This is not the type of person who's going to set that up and not knock it down at some point. Whether it's as simple as she's dead, I don't know how they do that and make it mean something.
That's why I still think it's a reveal that it's someone we've seen or been interested to. Like, I still want it to be Dedra, even though I think it's a very far cry from that. But that would be the perfect nature versus nurture in Star Wars. You had one Andor kid get taken by the Empire and became a fascist. You had the other one get taken by freedom fighters and became a rebel.
See, if Cyril was a woman, then I would say,
then you take the hosting duties here and you win all speculation for sure.
Yeah, but that's a little too on the nose, and that's my thought about her being in the show already, like she's Clea or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know, man, because like, is that too? Because for him, as much as you think like the Jedi thing, and I think in some ways that's probably true. That's my only pullback from Lutheran equals Jedi or something, is that it's too on the nose. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Maybe that's what it's going to be, but I'm giving him maybe more credit to say like, "Oh, it's not like you're my sister." Like we've seen that so many times. You know what I mean? It's like she's probably somewhere and she'll probably get there some time, but it might be a surprise. Like he's just somewhere rescuing people, and among the rescued, he finds his sister. You know what I mean? I don't know. Or she dies.
I'll kind of leave it like this. Like if they don't touch back on it, I don't think it's a big deal. What's a bigger deal is the Kenari flashback and Marva calling the CIS Republic. Like that just isn't, that doesn't jive in my head. And I know I brought it up and someone's like, well, I don't remember. Literally, when she comes in and sees young Cassian, she's like, when the Republic sees that you've killed Republic soldiers, they're going to fuck this place up. And they're literally, they have the CIS logo on their uniforms or their whatever suits they were wearing. That to me is the bigger issue than the sister, because that's just like, did you guys just completely fuck up, or is there more to that? And if you didn't expand on it in season 1, how does it even remotely fit into season 2? Like, it just, there's no place for it, I think, anymore.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch that again. I watched it, but I wasn't putting the emphasis on it that I probably should have.
Next time you watch it, look very closely at the dead guys in the white suits. They don't have the Republic insignia. And when Marva comes in and Clem, they talk about them as if they are dead Republic soldiers.
Yeah. Unless they knew something about some sort of
that's what I mean. Like, yes, that's what I mean. That there's a lot there to that flashback that may never get explained to me, which is bigger than the sister.
What happens to the rest of those kids? Are they taken into custody by?
That's what I'm getting at. Like
that
to me,
of the Empire, and she does grow up under the Empire, and it is Dedra.
Right.
I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows? It's TBD according to the creator.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's gonna happen. But who knows?
All right. Well, there you go. That's everything on Andor season 2, at least what we have been given. I'm sure Tony's team and then a lot more will come out. Who knows if we'll get as many set leaks as we did with season 1. I guess if they continue to shoot practically and go to locations, that'll happen. That's one thing you can't control when you shoot out in the wild is people on their phones. But if something happens Andor S2, you can definitely get some insights from the bros at the SWTS. All right, my man, it's time to transition into the fan segment. We do it every week to honor the fans, or at least the tens of fans to the SWTS. We've got the question of the week, which you can get involved by heading over to Instagram, looking at Star Wars Time Show, and looking in our stories or our feed, and replying. Not that many of you do, but when you do, we'll pick some of the comments and we'll talk about them on an episode of the Star Wars Time Show. So this week, the question was, what was your favorite or least favorite part about the Andor finale? Let me get screens changed here, and then we'll hear what the fans had to say. All right, there we go. It's up. Got my little Cassian action figure with his pew-pew there. All right, so first response comes for Clone War 50ST, a.k.a. Clone War 51st. I wanted to like this series, but it just didn't connect with me. I don't want Jedis and space wizards, but I think I needed more. Star Wars, Stormtroopers, and Droid. Favorite character was B2. Everyone else, meh. Okay.
Well, I'm not casting aspersions, but your name is literally Clone War 501st, so this is obviously maybe a younger person, prequel person, and that's what they got in the prequels. You know what I mean? Stormtroopers, pew pew, Jedis. I mean, I know he says he doesn't want Jedis and space wizards, but like, what isn't Star Wars? You know what I mean? Like, if you look at A New Hope, the first
Trevor,
movie,
they had bricks in it, bro. Of course it wasn't Star Warsy enough. There was fucking screws in the prison.
Fuck it. Weren't things made out of metal and there's Adobe on Tatooine. Everything's made out of clay and sand and
right.
That exists here.
You can't have bricks, only hovels. No bricks, only hovels.
Bricks is it's like the most basic of building. It's a building, literally a building block that cavemen came up with. You know what I mean? Like it's not hard.
Too basic.
Maybe they should have been blue. Maybe they should have been blue.
There you go. Not spacey enough. But South P24 chimes in. Fully agree. It was Star Wars adjacent, but still great. So liked it. Didn't quite like it, but did think it was Star Wars adjacent. All right, here's South P himself. He gets 2. How about that? There was a moment there where I felt it a bit too Sergeant Pepper with the costumes and the instruments, but the Stormtroopers finally getting into the action made it all worthwhile. So Paul did not like the band, which I loved. I thought the band kicked ass, but
totally
got his Stormtroopers.
I think there's another thing I think that maybe us old guys, like who grew up with Star Wars, and it was the 70s, man. You know what I mean? And it's like as much as every space, Star Wars got away from it more than anything else. Like if you watched any kind of space movie back then, everybody was like sort of hip, and their clothes were like very 70s hip. And Star Wars got away from that, but there was still elements of it that were in there, you know, and some clothing choices and some of the instruments and the guns that they used.
Dude,
that they
just look at their hairstyles. You know I mean? Look at their hairstyles in the original trilogy. Right. They all have fucking burns. I mean,
right. Like if you're going to do the future right now, like you don't know what the hell the future is going to look like. Maybe everybody's going to be bald. Maybe, oh, that would be beautiful. But like,
yeah, I'll fit in.
But maybe everybody's going to have, you know, kid and play haircuts at that point. You don't know. Like if you do that, no, can people relate to it? So there's certain things you can't change. And my point being, like the Sgt. Pepper uniforms, I think kind of come out of that age. You know what I mean? And there's just, I don't know. There's certain things that I'm okay with. I didn't like when they said, you want some calf. You know what I mean? Like it's a cool word for coffee. Come up with something else.
Right.
You know what I mean? Don't call it calf.
But brown shit. You want some of this brown shit? Yeah,
there was something else like that. Somewhere along the line, I was like, oh, well, shit. When the guy said shit, I was just like, it doesn't need to be in Star Wars. Not being a prude again. Just too early. You know what I mean? But certain things I think that they take and they modify. Kind of fits Star Wars. It is Star Wars. It is Star Wars.
I just like I'm gonna call them the Ferrex Sgt. Pepper Troop moving forward. I like that. All right, here we go.
It's not the equivalent of the bikers in the mods in
right.
In
no. Okay, here's coming from 2797_studios. Oh boy, where to begin? Can we pick the entire episode? The march, the funeral, Marva's speech, B2 kicked over to start the riot, nobody fucks with B. Brasso using Marva's brick to kill a fool was an epic moment. Cyril saving his love and then most likely having a moment. Baby Hux when? The tension of the entire series seemed to erupt on Rick's Road, and I loved it. The finale we deserved. And Mecha Zaku gives, yep, this is pretty accurate to that statement. So I agree.
That's a good summary.
Bat. Gotcha. Bat was smoking his dope when he watched the finale. All right, and then the last one here, we got droid_4_JLA. JLA. The big space battle of the season occurring off camera was expected, but still disappointing. The various moving parts of the riot were perfect. And the space battle he's referencing would be Anto Krieger's failed mission that Lutheran threw him under the bus. So just in case anyone was wondering, that is what space battle they're referring to.
But that was all off camera.
Well,
I mean,
dude,
we literally
that goes back to your show tell.
What?
The whole Anton Krieger thing was the epitome of Tony's show and tell approach. Where, hey, you get a hollow of him, you hear about him, but we didn't go to him. We didn't have any long exposition, but it all made sense. Like the sacrifice Lutheran had to make with Anton's group, it all made sense. It all had weight to it, so it worked.
And they worked it right because I'm sure, yes, there are things that are like, this is a budgetary concern. This is a whole other set that you'd have to create, all sorts of extras, new costuming, blah, blah, blah. Battles are expensive, special effects. Didn't need to happen. Like you knew it was going to happen. The idea that people were like, you're going to sacrifice these people and you've seen people like this, like you get the idea. It's the monster off screen.
Yeah, no, I mean,
you get
visually,
you feel the whole
visually
thing.
It would have been a treat, but it would have been stupid. It was a waste. You knew they were going to get wasted. Yeah. They were going into a trap against the Empire with 30 people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they had no chance. It made sense. But yeah, I get it. I get how we want to see everything, especially space battles, because space battles in Star Wars kick ass. All right, so that moves us into the second part of our fan segment, which is the top 5 Star Wars fan artist features of the week. This week, I did everything. I did the daily features, which you can get mixed up in on Instagram at Star Wars Time Show, add tag Star Wars Time Show, or use hashtag Star Wars Time Show. But if you really want me to see it, you got to do add tag because hashtags are broken AF. But either way, I'll look through them every morning. I'll share them out. And then on Mondays or Tuesdays, we pick the 5 most appealing of the week. So this week, like I said, no Nick. So I got the picks. All right, Trevor, up first. I don't know if you can see these or you got the post with you.
I got them up.
All right, we got this great set of custom figs from at the _ Kyber _ collective. And what we're looking at here, if you're not on the stream, you got this. It's kind of like a what if Qui-Gon, where he's got bits of Vader's armor, like he's in the Clone Wars kind of. It's a very rad look. I believe this Qui-Gon has either been drawn by Uzu Art or either an official concept art. But then you got a Dooku there with a great head sculpt. So it's just they're great looking figures. The Qui-Gon is pretty epic. Do you like this version of Qui-Gon? This kind of, he could be Breaking Bad or fighting in the Clone Wars Qui-Gon. He's got that dark armor.
Yeah. As a what if, yeah, sure. I mean, I still would love to see some what if Star Wars stuff.
Oh, hell yeah.
Anime Star Wars. So I'm all about that. So this would be cool. I mean, yeah, it'd be great to hear Liam Neeson do like Qui-Gon as a badass. His voice would be cool. So yeah, it looks really good. Their hero poses, they're obviously facing off against someone. I don't know how you could do this differently, but like it's beautifully done. I think this is more about the customs and
yeah. I think this is more like a figure
than it is
figure
about
shot
dynamism or anything like that. But it's well shot. It's nicely done. The light is good.
Yeah, everyone's got to watch out this week. We got a pro on here critiquing. He actually knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, so. I'm sorry. I jumped into things. So just stop me.
I love it. No, dude.
Just say, nice picture.
No, I love it. Tell them how it is. So we'll just pull up my pull up my feed and you can shit all over it. Like, dude, like you don't even post anymore. B, you're so basic. Portraits are stupid. Your lighting sucks. The angles are off.
Portraits are great. Portraits are great, and like I like it. And this is what this is. This is a wide portrait. I think. I mean, if you weren't trying to show off the whole figure, which again is the point of this, to show off these.
Hey, they're good looking sculpts, and that Qui-Gon kicks ass.
Yeah.
All right.
Bring them in a little closer. Have them like sort of close together, and make it. But I mean, that's not the shot. So I mean, it's a good shot. It's nice, and then the costumes are really cool. Really
so this is coming again from at the _ Kyber _ collective on Instagram. Give them a look. All right, the next one here is kind of an homage to an Obi-Wan Kenobi comic panel. But it's Luke, and I'm talking about there's a panel there where I actually think it was concept art for A New Hope, where Obi-Wan uses the Force and gathers all these stormtrooper blasters and then has them shoot at once. But Star Wars Rick here on Instagram has Luke doing it in his all black kind of tank top deal from that comic book figure release, the one that came with Thrawn's little pet. And it works. Like it's a good, strong shot of Luke using the Force like a pimp and kind of paying, like I said, homage to Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yep. Yeah, it's nicely done.
At Star Wars _ Rick on Instagram.
Good composition. I like him. I like the setting he's got him in.
Do you think the blasters are just relayered over and over? I
was looking at that, but I don't think they are, because if you look at the sort of the end little barrel there, the light is slightly different on each one of them. So he may have done that a couple of times, but some of them are different anyway.
Yeah.
It'd be, I don't know. As long as you don't have them touching anything, it's still a lot of work to cut those out. I mean, you could do it, I guess, if you do it once, you're done, and you could just repeat it over and over again. It'd probably be the smart way to do it. I'd be putting them on wires and photoshopping out the wires like an idiot, but like that's just me.
That's the one thing I always struggle with, and I understand. If you're gonna have wires or stands, shoot a plate. But even then, like I'd shoot a plate, but as I'm doing the live shoot, I'm incorporating either aerosol or steam. It's like, well, my plate's fucking clean, so I can't really wipe my wires now.
So it's a problem. Yeah. Well, no, you can. Well, you can do it. It's there's ways to do it. I have some videos on it.
All right. So you're saying I actually have to use a big boy photo editing platform?
Yeah.
I have to go to Photoshop. Okay. I'll stick to my portraits then. All right. So that's Star Wars _ Rick on Instagram. Regular poster, Star Wars all the time. Check him out. All right, next one here. We got a great looking Maul shot, like a Mandalorian Maul, the Clone Wars Maul. This one comes from @Tanks TENKS 666. So Trevor, we got that Clone Wars Maul there. So he's got his chest bared a little bit. It looks like there's a Mandalorian. Looks like there's a loyalist there, and then for some reason, do you think? Yeah, that clone looks like he's captured. Right, his arms are kind of behind his back. I'm thinking so. Maybe Maul is talking to his...
Oh, is that what it's?
Yeah, because I'm like, well,
okay.
if the dude's just standing there, why isn't he trying to shoot at Maul? But if you look closely, it does look like the arms are kind of bound behind his back.
Okay, so the one thing I would say is like to take that Mando on the left there and just move the arm into a more casual pose. As if they're listening to him, because I can't see that the other arm is behind them, and I didn't know that.
I just picked up on that now, and really the story this shot's telling me, Trevor, is Maul's kind of amping up his followers. I'm gonna kill you. The Republic sent this guy here. Blah blah. I'm gonna kill him. They're all like, yeah. But I can see what you're saying. That the one raised arm is kind of blocking some of the story there.
Think about this is nice lighting. This is a nice setup. It's good depth. And it's well constructed. You got a nice triangle there going on with your subject and the rest of it. It's cool. I would have killed that God light a little bit. I don't really love after effect or post God lights, but I mean there's ways to do that practically, but it's tricky. But just maybe tone that down a little bit. But really sell the story, because I find myself doing this a lot sometimes too. Like you've got something in your head and you know what's happening in the scene, but are you selling it to everybody who doesn't have that?
That's the hardest fucking part, pal. I mean, that's the trick.
Maybe if he had his lightsaber, if Maul's lightsaber was up against the neck of that trooper, you know what I mean? And his other hand is up like this. Well, kind of like he has it, but maybe a little more strongly. And the other, troopers, the Mandalorians are kind of looking up at him. It might have sold the idea that he was ready to, sacrifice this guy and show everybody what's what. But, I mean, technically it's a really nice shot though. It's really well done.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing is I missed the guy on the right. See, it's about placement sometimes too. His hand is up too, as if he's like, they're all kind of cheering.
I mean, that's what I got.
Into Maul's leg, and you can't see it because it's in Maul's leg. So just watch the placement of things, like overlapping sometimes. It's not bad to overlap. Just like watch where they're kind of aiming at.
Hopefully
really
these
nice
people
shot.
are tuning in, because like I said, they're getting a master class right now. These are all good tips, my friends. Take them and deploy them. All right, so that is @Tank666. Up next, and this is just a kind of a basic shot, but I love this custom figure. Think of if a Death Trooper painted the Punisher logo on his helmet. That's what we're looking at right now. This comes from @CrustyVibes with a Z. And again, just a very simple portrait. There's what do you just one light source here? It looks like almost.
Looks like a top-down, like a God light source. Yeah, is this a hot toy?
No,
or is this a 112?
Dude, it's got to be 112, because if you look closely, look at that joint. That's got to be a Black Series.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right on the arm. I didn't see that. Yeah, okay, because this is really nice.
But there are some cloth customized pieces on here. It looks like though. It's just the helmet. Yeah. I mean, it's like a perfect match. Like if you want to be the Punisher in Star Wars, you're a Death Trooper, and paint that motherfucker on your helmet. And there you go. And that's what Krusty Vibes is telling us. So,
I'm a sucker for that top. That overtop God light.
I do too. I mean, sometimes it's I love fucking with lighting. Like lighting's my favorite part of toy photography. It's also why I probably don't do a lot of it, because I waste so much time playing with lights, and it's just like, where did all my shoot time go? Well, it's because you moved that one light 55 times before you decided to shoot.
Quality over
That's
quantity,
right.
my friend.
But it really is amazing how lights and the angles they're presented at, their brightness, their color, how it can change a shot. I mean, it can take it from looking very flat and basic to, holy shit, this is a dynamic, almost 3D style portrait. But Krusty Vibes doesn't need any special light here for this figure. It's just a badass looking figure. So check it out @Krusty Vibes on Instagram. Up next, from @Zord.photography.
Yeah, this is nice.
This dude either is great at layering or has one of the largest collections of 1/6 scale 332nd clone troopers I've ever seen. Because in the shot, the feature is Captain Vaughn, which apparently is shipping to people that actually pay their sideshow bills on time. People like me that do layaway, we tend to get shit 2 months after everyone else. Oh well. But the star of the shot's Captain Vaughn, looking good. He's got that, Cody visor on, but it's got the Ahsoka paint. But in the back, you literally got the Hot Toys Ahsoka, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 regular 332nd, aka 501 with the Ahsoka helmets, troopers sitting there. Now, I think they're all real. Like I think these are actual individual figures.
I'm zooming in here. Oh, this is getting in the way. I can't see it. If these are layered, even the front layer, there's the one on the right, the far right, there's a little bit of a halo, but I don't think so, man. I'd love to find out because I don't think so. He's at least got 4.
Yeah, I think Zord listens sometimes.
But I think they're all there. But I've seen people, and these things have been on sale on a couple of sites. They come to a couple of the Hong Kong sites that you could get them a little bit cheaper. I won't mention names because I don't love them, but
a little bit cheaper, in what, 200 versus 250, or
no? I'm like talking about like in the 160, 170 range. Okay. Like there's fire sales on some of this stuff, but like still in all, we're still talking about a $900 to $1,000 shot here. But I've seen people going nuts on these troopers, man, for Ahsoka. So it's possible. Maybe that's just a helmet over her shoulder and not a full
Hey, would you think of the Kenobi 501 variant that Hot Toys teased last week? Did you see that one? It's the 501, but as they were presented in the Kenobi series, so the blue is a different color and they're a little shinier than the 501st that just came out this year.
Oh, maybe I didn't notice that.
Check it out after this because it's like a whole new armor.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at it this week. We're doing a 1/6 pack on Friday.
Check it out. Check it out and compare. They actually in the glamour shots they compare the ones that came out this year with Rex and Ahsoka, and then this one that's going to be coming out next year. So check it out. I know some people are like, "Oh, this is sweet." Shot. Other people are like, "Oh, fuck you, Hot Toys. We hate you. Just give us Anakin Skywalker reissue."
Yeah, well, Hot Toys is a volatile community for sure. It's just like Star Wars, and then Hot Toys Star Wars. Forget about it. But I like the lighting on this shot. It's really, really nice. It's got a little bit of atmosphere, and that's what I like about like atmosphere makes the guys in the back really feel like they're
what
back
do you
there,
think?
You know
I'm interested in your opinion on this because I'm someone that wants to do more of this, A, because it's easier, and B, I do think it looks well. Do you like when people just use that solid black background?
Generally, no, especially when it's looking a little gray because of the atmosphere, whatever he's using with fog or atmosphere or mist or whatever. But in this case, this is kind of postery. I think a busy background would get in the way. So in this case, I think if it fades back to like we don't know what's back there, it could just be a wall. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on how it's used. In a portrait, yeah, it's fine. I would have liked to have seen some like I did a shot with Ahsoka a while back that I just used some generic like they weren't even space walls. They were another like. You couldn't see them, though. They were so out of focus that you couldn't tell it wasn't Star Wars. They were just some greeblies, and it just looked like there was a texture back there. That's all, which might have preferred here, but it still works. It's still really nice.
I've done 2 shoots recently, believe it or not, and I've gone full digi. And what I'll do, I'll grab like a fucking screenshot of a clone trooper, or like from a Clone Wars series or Battlefront. And I'll just kind of expand it a bit, so it creates kind of like what you're saying, almost like a pattern. So you do get you do get some bit of a background, but it's nothing detailed. It's nothing I have to build or have practical shit in there. So
yeah, if you're doing a tight portrait, that's fine, especially if it's more out of focus and you just can't tell what's back there. It's basically something to back it up, but it can get busy if you're doing a wider shot like this. And if you were doing one figure and not all these figures here, and you just put a digital background behind it, that's not always great because you want some depth. You want some other element to be in between your foreground. You want a midground, and then you want your background.
All right, hey,
but this works.
I had to ask.
This is nice.
All right, well there you go. At Zord photography on Instagram, and that does it, my friends. As Nick usually says, that's the end of the show. So we know what to do. I know what to do. I need to shut this thing down and go lay in a couch in a dark room. But yeah, before I can't. That's the best part about my life, and with my leg and all the shit, I can't take NSAIDs because I'm allergic to them. So I don't get any relief from any pain of any kind, which is why I'm on the old medical system.
Caffeine?
I can't even have caffeine. I haven't had a milligram of caffeine since I was 20 years old. I'm going on.
Oh, okay. So you're not a caffeine drinker anyway.
I don't need it, but I do miss a painkiller here or there. I'll tell you that. Or like I can't take cold medicine because it's
the painkillers for your leg aren't affecting your head. Though?
As long as it's not no, I don't have to do that anymore. As long as it's not an NSAID, I can try it and it may not kill me. But if it's an NSAID like ibuprofen, my throat closes, my eyes shut. It's awesome. It's good stuff. The body's fun. That didn't happen until I was 26. My whole life I could eat. I was eating ibuprofen in high school to play football. I mean, I remember like how the dumb shit we used to do before a Friday game. We'd take 2 or 3 Rip Fuel and then like 6 ibuprofen and go run out on a fucking football field. Like,
you got a young liver. It's fine.
Oh my God, I should be dead. All right, no, I really got to go. Like I keep taking my hat off. My head is fucking killing me. But as I leave,
let's get out of here.
Don't forget.
Thank you for having me on.
That's right. Everyone, if you're new here, Trevor he was a guest host. Really, I do appreciate you, man. That was great. Thanks for coming by. I think it made the Andor finale discussion way better than just me talking to myself and replying to stuff in the chat. And I think you brought Toy Visuals and Ellis with you. So I think every Tuesday now, I'm just gonna have to ping Trevor and be like, "Hey, can you announce that the show's going live?" Because no one pays attention on our feed when we do it.
I do mean to do it. I tune in and then I'm like, oh shit, I should.
It just like
I do every once in a while.
You are right. Like I should try more, but I tried for so long, it would go nowhere. I mean, hey, show coming up, no response. Like, all right,
ask the audience, put it out, all your followers, and just ask them to just play or repost your story.
There you go. Or join the Discord. I'm usually active in there. We do have a Discord. You can find it via Instagram at Star Wars Time Show, which again you can get to if you go to starwarstime.net, our home base on the internet. If you want to subscribe to the podcast version of the show, which is the same thing we just did, but words only, no lovely looking bald guys. You can find those links over on starwarstime.net. If you want to sub to YouTube, we also got the links there. We make it easy for you. Just make sure to subscribe. And if you can, leave a rating or review because that is money for us. All right. There's no Patreons here. There's no paywalls. But if you could do the little things, like if you're listening now, like the video, leave a comment, sub to the channel.
If you had hats for sale, I'd buy a hat.
There you go. I have small ones that are making my head hurt really bad. You want one of those?
I got a giant.
I know, dude. I would love to send you one, but they're all smalls at this point. So, and there's no point in getting new ones because they hardly sold when we did it. So, I'm out of the closing business. But if you have a small head, we still have a few over on StarWarsTime.net. And that could be any of your heads. Use it as a loincloth if you have to. If it doesn't fit your larger cranium. All right, people, we love you. Keep it going. There's always time for Star Wars time, but please spread the word. Talk about it. If you are new here and you enjoyed it, put it on your to-do list. Tell a friend. Let's keep growing. Besides, as we always say, Trevor knows this. Joey C knows this. Toy Visuals is about to know it. If you listen to the Star Wars Time Show, the Force will be with you always.